Hello there, how's it going, everyone? How you doing, Glib?
Hello, can you hear me? Is it
You are quiet again,
very quiet?
as always. You can't seem to get a consistent standard from your microphone. Glib?
Yo, is that any better?
Yeah, you sound much louder now.
All right, go
Yeah,
get an MXL microphone. That's all I have to say.
get an what's this one? Fucking 80 2020.
And I want an SM7B, which is the podcast standard mic, but I just don't have the money to spend right now. Um, yeah,
It's
I
fine.
mean,
You don't need to splash out on anything too frivolous. So today we're not going to be responding to a video unless we run out of time, and we'll continue watching was Empire of Dreams, which was pretty fucking interesting to be honest. But today we were going to talk a little bit about sci-fi. So a couple of things on the docket, kind of comparing miniatures versus CGI, as well as just talking about like sci-fi in general, like how certain universes handle their world building, or even a lack of world building, we could say. Like,
yeah.
was there anything you wanted to start off with, or should we just go straight to the first topic?
Um, I think we should just start with what sci-fi is. So, I mean, science fiction. What do
Oh,
you
so you
what?
probably wanted to maybe define the terms a little bit better because like a lot of things just get labeled as science fiction. I know there are people that say, well, oh, there's science fiction, there's science fantasy, there's space opera. But apparently, all these things are separate. But I
Yeah,
don't
but
really care unless they usually define it.
well, I think that most of it just has to do with technology and the idea of the future. But I don't know if there's a more deeper explanation to what science fiction is. But if we're being specific, I think you and I wanted to talk about space stuff. That was kind of the point.
Space stuff.
Space stuff, yeah, because we
Yeah, but
were
sci-fi just saying, oh, we're going to talk about sci-fi sounds more interesting than just saying, well, we're going to talk about space stuff today.
well. That's an interesting place to start because aesthetically, I don't think that I'm not as interested in modernity when it comes to science fiction. I'm more interested in seeing the future represented through people's eyes. Robert Zemeckis was saying that science fiction is boring and the future is boring because it's just the opinion of the author, and I think it's more interesting than that. I think that trying to predict the future is a or be prescient about what is going to happen next is kind of a skill or a talent that you can format, you can build up over time, and I find that really interesting. I don't think that there are many science fiction stories that take place in the present tense or in the past that are mainstream, really, because the fictional part of
Stargate.
the science part.
Well, Stargate is no longer mainstream, but it used to be.
Right, but what I'm saying is that usually it's perspective about what's going to happen, not what has already happened. There's not many
Mhm.
science fiction stories about nuclear
I
weapons
wouldn't say many like
that
science
are
fiction stories are saying that the future will be this, that, and the other. It's more just using it as um, a framing device for the story that they want to tell in this world that they have created, in which happens to be in humanity's future.
right. And I know I'm being. I know that there are current day science fiction stuff. Like if you look at Primer, it's a time travel story that's supposed to take place in the current tense, in the current aspect of the world, but the technology is still beyond people's ability to create. And the same goes for stuff like the MCU, where all of the aspects of it are supposed to take place in a contemporary setting, but the science fiction aspect of it is not really in tune with what technology of the time, right?
Yeah, so you've got
So,
like Tony Stark, and he's got holograms everywhere, and he's got the technology to build a flying suit and an AI.
right,
Falcon has jet wings.
and the explanation is pretty thin. It's just fantasy stuff. So I don't think that science fiction has to be about technology and explicitly be realistic, but at the same time, it also is. At the same time, it's also one of those things where you want it to be optimistic in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to, like I say, I don't really see much point in trying to predict the future ultra, like it's down to the point. And I don't think that really should be the point of sci-fi to try and predict, because like if you're trying to go down to like the 100% realism, the realism only ever helps immersion. It doesn't always work well with like actually setting up a construction of a story. So, I think the only times which that works really well is, for example, The Expanse, and The Expanse is a pretty a lot more scientifically accurate than a lot of other science fiction properties, and how they have dealt with how they talk about how they vision the future, like the idea that there would be a separation between Mars and Earth. I think that's a quite a big possibility,
I
but
think it's
just
pretty
to predict
obvious.
some. Hmm?
It's like so obvious that I came up with a similar story idea with mine. I was like, yeah, of course Mars would be going against Earth. Of course, the chief settlement of
It'd be like
any.
the American Revolution.
Well, yeah, that's what they did. Is they did it. They in Expanse, it's like they're Texans or something, like Australia and Texas put together and all that. But it's really just because any kind of place that has a different power
Mars is
base
space Texas.
and well, the main character for the Martians in the ship has got a Texan accent, and I always found that weird. But it just seems to be obvious that any place that's suitably far enough away from Earth, and also on
So
top of
like
that, the
it's
yeah.
gonna culturally develop differently. You say.
Well, they're gonna want their own independence. I mean, that's a common theme in
Hmm.
human history. Like you don't want to, you want to break away from your parents essentially, but also that they are a different species of human,
And
which is
look
the
what
part.
America has done with themselves. Ugh, such a lazy
Well,
child.
I mean, the Mars is separatist, but also the thing is that their physical creative, like the vision of Martians has to do with the scientific reality and expanse. So everybody is different based on the amount of gravity that they're experiencing, and then there's on top of that being in artificial oxygen systems and all that. So whether or not you terraform Mars before you have the battle between Earth and Mars, that's really common. I mean, it's obvious that that's what you would do, and the Expanse doesn't even get away from that by adding in planet like the exoplanets and stuff. That's still going to create the distance between the two planets and leadership and all those things, especially when it has to do with species. So
Hmm.
I I think that Expanse is one of the only science fiction stories really tried to take into consideration the scientific reality of the situation that they were in. I know it was based on a D&D game, um, but I
Yeah,
don't
but
know if
is
that
that
makes
always like what is right for the science fiction story that you're telling to try and frame it
no.
in the most realistic device possible?
No, but that's because the medium is also the media. So like if you're making Star Trek and no one has they're not really doing EVAs outside of the ship, and they're not in zero gravity or whatever. It's because of cost. It's because they just are trying to make a low budget sci-fi show. With the
No, but
Expanse, they
is it all? But sometimes is it better, like even if it's regardless of cost, just to have um, things be easier by inventing things like gravity plating, so you can have people walk rather than have people float down corridors.
I think that you design it for the medium. Like I said, I like Back to the Future. They were talking about how they wanted the original time travel machine was going to be a refrigerator or something that was going to
What?
be. Yeah, they didn't want it to be. They wanted to have some sort of time machine that was a static thing, and then one of them, one of the Bob Zemeckis or Bob Gale, was saying like, "Don't we want to be able to drive around?" And then they also had a special effects prototype kind of like setup where they wanted to have a time travel effect itself. But then they realized that they don't need any kind of time travel moment. It would just be, or like a sequence. It would just be a momentary thing that would change over. So then it became about the car going 88 miles per hour. All of the little mechanics of the all of the mechanics of the time travel and Back to the Future are exclusively in service for explaining how the story could work. Like you need 1.21 gigawatts. That's not real. having a DeLorean go 88 miles per hour, that's barely real, or having it work at all. But all of the different things, like when he's saying, oh yeah, and the aluminum design or whatever, and the stainless steel construction, and when you go through time, it gets hot, but then it gets cold. Like all of those things are just there to entertain the audience. The audience, as soon as they can understand what's happening and they see all the gadgets and stuff, they're not really thinking deeply about how possible this thing is. It just has to be convincing enough. So when you watch The Expanse and you see how realistic it is, it's like, yeah, it's realistic, but the ships are ugly in comparison to the other, I think what we were talking about yesterday, which is designing ships for the aesthetics, like Star Wars, where they don't have brakes on the ship, like you can't see behind yourself in an X-Wing, really. All of these things are really just about presenting the visuals.
Well, the Expanse doesn't really have brakes on their ship. They have to flip their ship around.
Right, but that's more realistic than
obviously
than the design of the X-Wings, because they have all of Expanse. The TV show is explicit about their retro booster or whatever, the thrusters on other sides of the ship, whereas most ships are not designed to be sort of the XYZ axis. They're designed like planes but flying in space, and it's because humans are able to associate with that.
It's also like a lot more kinetic as well. I think there is a certain appeal with the style of having, because I was talking with my concept artists, where I like the style of the naval combat, like space battles. So like instead of having, people fly about everywhere, you have these formations, and it's only working on like an axis, like you were on like an ocean. And like these things, like obviously in real life, you would just send a fucking missile from miles and miles and miles away.
Right.
Like most real world dogfights no longer take place like, within firing distance. It's only firing a rocket that you don't even see the enemy.
I have a way around that, but I'm not going to say it here because it's part of the script that I'm writing I was telling you.
Well, anyway, I like the idea of, you have these dogfights, so you need these ships to get, like the fighters to get close to each other, rather than what would again be more realistic and more boring is that they've out of distance. And I like the idea of things like broadsides. It's very cool.
It's
like
cool.
It's like in World War II, where you had these big battleships like broadsiding each other and just wailing on each other, and then instead you've got it with spaceships, and it's in space, and it's cool because it's all technologically advanced.
You have to justify why they're doing that in some fashion, which is not hard if you think about it.
You just set up that this is the logic of the world, though. You don't contradict that, how the world is being established. You should be fine. Like, don't then suddenly announce that in the world you have this, insane technology where you can destroy ships from like halfway across the system, and it's like nothing.
Well, they
like,
do
not even experimental.
If you really think about something like Star Wars, it's really nonsensical. Like, you can use, like, Luke is using the Force at the end to not get hit with the targeting system, but all the ships have targeting systems in the first one, you know what I mean? So it's kind of weird that you have this locking system where they can lock onto each other and then shoot each other with these self-guiding lasers or whatever, but at the same time, they're still dogfighting. I think that it's just exclusively about the aesthetics trying to make that work after that point, because I don't recall any kind of tactical thing going on in like the prequels at any point with the ships are just flying around and hitting each other with whatever is most expedient, And then if you have something like Star Trek, it's just like fire phasers, and then they just give you a percentage about what, and damage report, cause, effect, that kind of thing.
Shields are 20%, Captain.
And then
that's cool though. That is cool. You got to admit, like when they're just saying off the percentages, and you've got the alarms going off on the bridge of the Enterprise.
Well, it's interesting that they have all the shield stuff in both of those, and then you look at the Expanse, and it's just machine guns in space. It's like that's not cool when you're talking about lasers in space. That's what you want, right? You want
very quickly.
Awesome.
I do have a guest to introduce, so very quickly.
He's been reduced to a feckless, bedwetting, parmesan-shaving imbecile who revels in his own uselessness.
Don't take that personally.
Yes, I am. No, I'm owning up to it.
I have a limited amount of clips here. I mean, I could introduce you with this.
Yes, here we go.
Okay, I like that one better. I like that one better.
All right, then here we fucking go. Will that be your intro from here on, bad boy?
Now I
Okay.
can leave.
Unfortunately, me and Glib don't have intros. I do have an intro for voice though.
Yeah.
Like voices.
There is a box, and inside the box there is a tiny man who sings and plays musical instruments.
That's a good intro for him.
Like, it's perfect because it's about a radio.
Yeah, that's pretty much on the money.
Anyway, with to talk about like the technology of the world, one which I've always found is like very interesting is Mass Effect. So like they explain
Ugh.
everything with the Mass Effect technology, and like the idea that you can control the mass of an object, so it's much easier to accelerate. Like say how they use it for the weapons, like the gravity plating, the intergalactic travel, even the powers. It's quite insane how much you can actually achieve with the idea that you're physically being able to change the mass of an object. Well, I say artificially change, I should say.
Yeah, I've actually been listening to you guys for like the past 10 minutes. I was making myself lunch.
Nice.
It's a good lunch.
Yeah, and it was pretty good. It was a fish taco. What you were saying, Shiny, about the idea of like what was it? A broadside, in space. There was actually a movie. It was a really, really terrible movie that did that actually. Where they launched like
Star Wars
missiles.
Episode 3.
No. It was a movie. It was a movie. It was a really shitty sci-fi movie. It was Wing Commander with Freddie Prinze Jr. And it was a really, really crappy movie.
I don't think I've ever seen Wing Commander, the movie.
Yeah, I don't think Freddie Prinze Jr. has either.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, but I forget the actor's name. There was like two actors in there that I really liked. I've seen them in like other properties.
Fuck ugly ships.
Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, he was in it too.
Yeah.
He was like his best friend, and yeah, that movie was like really terrible. Like whenever somebody dies, like one of the pilots dies, they're like, okay, we need to forget this person ever existed, in order to honor their memory. It's like, wait, what? How does that work?
My favorite Matthew Lillard role is either Hackers or SLC Punk, where he's just like this goofy guy. He's just like the standard goofy guy after that.
Yeah, I liked him in Hackers.
This is now a Matthew Lillard fan stream. I love you, Scooby Doo.
One thing which I've like kind of got a bit irked by when it comes to a lot of science fiction designs, which makes them incredibly generic, is just big dark gray ships. Like I find that it's far
Shiny.
too like overused.
Shani, are you looking at a picture of the Prometheus when you're talking about that?
I know. It's I like the Daedalus class in Stargate, even though it's just a big dark grey ship. But it is just kind of a trope which irks me a little bit because it makes it all look far too generic. It's not very imaginative.
Yeah, the Daedalus actually looks real. Like I was, I should have mentioned this back when we did our Stargate stream, but from what I read, like they based like the Daedalus off of like aircraft carriers and like the like, whereas the Prometheus was like CGI, just pure CGI.
The problem is with the Prometheus, it didn't really have too much like design behind it. It was like had an alright front design, and then it's got this really weird, ugly back, and it's not like well balanced or composed at all. Let's just share the screen for the Daedalus.
Sorry, now
Here's the Daedalus.
I'm just watching Hackers clips now because I love this serial killer dude. He's so fucking funny.
I do understand what you're talking about. It's like kind of like you've combined the missile element of like a destroyer, a cruiser, and then you've also got like the aircraft carrier part because you've got like the conning tower here.
Yep.
What would be the tower on like an aircraft carrier, and then you've got the big fighter bay doors on the side. I love this design, even though it is part of that just generic gray look which you see with so many designs.
Well, gray is contrasting with black. That's the point. I mean, if you have a white ship, it ends up looking kind of grayish. You got a black ship, it won't show up. So you need to have something that's going to be able to contrast when you're filming it. And gray is usually what people come up with because it's like, hey, look, gray is metal. Metal's gray. But then if you really think about it, a lot of different things would probably take place in space. I mean, why not have some kind of like why not have camo paint, right? Like why not have a surface that changes colors depending on the surroundings that they're around.
Camo plating. I don't know how much camo there is like, in space, like space bushes.
Why not? Well, they had camouflage. They had dazzle camo. That's what they thought that ships needed, and now ships have a certain look to them. And planes the same way. They used to paint them.
Like the camo in space, though, would only work if with like visual detection, and like a lot of science fiction detection is probably going to be based upon it's like a thermals, like in
certain paints that are used for stealth craft are specific. Are like
I thought that was like partly the shape as well.
Well, you need
like,
that
just
is
made
true
it harder
too,
to detect on radar.
That's true too. But like there are coatings that you could put on the ship to
and then again, that's not even camo explicitly. It's more just the like that's not. It's not the color which is affecting it. It's probably the material itself.
Right, but like I'm talking about like lens crafters. Like the ship shows up and then it like cloaks out of orbit, that kind of thing, or uncloaks. That shit is that shit's interesting, but I don't know. I don't know what else would you color a ship aside from something ridiculous like Jodorowsky's Dune, where they look like fish or something. Like you don't want your ship to. You want your commercial ship to be really obvious, so you paint it a certain way. You want your ambulance ship to be really obvious of all that. But then if you have a combat ship, you don't want it to be obvious. So it's kind of like
I was gonna say like the ship decloaks and it's like bright pink. It's like ugh.
That'd be in one universe. That'd be genius, right? Like a Cowboy Bebop, I would understand that. Like some pimp ship comes out of orbit, and then there's like '70s music playing as it comes out, or out of a warp or whatever. But
even in the future, disco never dies.
Disco never dies. That should be it's the USS Disco Never Dies, and it comes out of orbit, and it's fucking like it's Star Trek 1 Bones with his beard and his pleasure suit. That'd be awesome.
I personally
we need more variation.
He needs a soul
designs.
As damn it, Jim, I'm a
disco demon. Talking about like the camo wouldn't like either work in space either, because if you're trying to like
you just wouldn't be able to see the ship. It wouldn't show up on camera.
It would just be black. You just paint the ship black with a couple of white dots.
They did that in fucking Expanse. They had that the stealth ship is just all black and you just can't see it. And it's actually bad for the show's aesthetics, but they don't care. That was one of the things I actually like about Expanse, is that they kind of didn't care that the consequences of their design weren't as aesthetic as they could have been. I thought that was actually pretty clever.
They did that. They did that in Battlestar Galactica, the newer series. Remember they made a ship out of like I can't remember. They explained it in the show in the episode where they make like a stealth fighter out of like old parts, like they used like panels from like something that like insulate the heat. They explain it in the episode. Like the chief, he gets bored one day and he starts building a ship from the ground up. Yeah, and they used it for a couple episodes until I think it got blown up, and the pilot had to eject. I think it was Starbuck that was flying it, and she had to eject. But yeah, they did do and it was black. It was black in color, and their fighter craft were like a dull white color. I think like white and red, if I remember correctly.
We need to watch Last Starfighter again. Because have you guys seen that one?
I haven't seen it. I've seen it like at the video store, but I've never watched it.
Yeah, nobody talks about it because the ship design is fucking garbage. It's like one of those. It's one of those things where the everything is lacking in a way. There are people that really like it, I think, and there's some good explanations in it. But it's one of those capturing the Star Wars thing. Like they're trying to ride the fad in a way, but it's another example of them of trying to pick out science fiction and aesthetics from to like what is it that the audience wants to see? Well, they want to see the action, they want to see something that's going to be cool and fun looking and all of that, and I think it really affects the longevity of the product if it has a lack of aesthetics, if it doesn't look good, if the ship if the toy version of something isn't going to look cool to a kid that's playing with it, then it's probably not worth it, you know? If there's all these different aspects of the product that you're making where you're thinking, are kids going to want to play with this? No? Well, then it's probably shit. That's the way that I look at it. Like, who wants to play with what's that? What's the stupid ass ship that the Rocinante? Does anybody want a toy Rocinante to put on their wall from the Expanse? Probably not, because it's just like a lump of metal. You might as well make a space killdozer. It looks just as good. But at the same time, I also feel like having a realistic ship, having more of the design be based on something rooted in reality, allows you to avoid certain aesthetic problems. Like, I don't think that the ship from Firefly, the Serenity, is a good-looking ship. That could have used some science fiction, or it could have used more aesthetic design to it. But you have to define what you want your ship to look like first.
Well, that was kind of like really the point of the Firefly ship, the ship itself. Like, you got to remember, Mal found that ship in a well, not quite a junkyard, but like he was like walking with the guy, and he's like, "Oh, hey, how about that one?" And the seller's like, "Nah, you don't want that one. That's a piece of junk." He's like, "Now this one over here."
He's right next to Indiana Jones, and Indiana Jones like, "It belongs in a dumpster."
A dumpster
it
that's
belongs
on
in a
fire.
landfill. It belongs in a museum inside a dumpster.
That's on fire.
Fuck this ship. I'm out of here. I really have so many problems mentally when I look at the Firefly ship and you see how they're just hanging pots on the walls, and you're like, what happens if they do a roll or something? Those pots are gonna go flying around and hit people in the face. Nothing's locked down.
I kind of want to see that now.
Terrible idea.
If gravity just turns off and then all of a sudden the G's are just gonna throw a fucking plant pot across the room.
The most under-designed parts of ships, I feel like, are when it comes to sci-fi, are the insides. They just build like, all right, how do we take a regular room and turn it into a ship-looking thing? Is it a sloped walls thing? Is it you put panels on the side? Is it that you put piping? Like, what is the inside of a ship?
In pipes and panels, and I wouldn't know that from experience.
Well, at the very least, I like that in the Expanse they had like anti-gravity or the gravity boots or whatever for when things fell apart.
Were they like magnetic boots, not anti-gravity boots?
Whatever they were, I thought that was a good touch because other things. It's like,
and also, like
things go wrong
gravity when the ship's moving as well. So like the ship is while the ship is moving, it's designed so that it creates a gravity by the angle that it's at. I believe in the interior.
I'm designing a sci-fi thing. Everybody, if they're going into combat, has their EVA suit on when they go into combat, ready for the ship to fucking explode at any moment. So that's the way that I feel about sci-fi, and it's too expensive, I think, and too ridiculous for them to put on helmets every single time because you want to see their actors' pretty faces. It's like Batman. Batman should have a fucking face mask, but he's an idiot and he wants to be Batman. So and then really, it's not. That's not the reasoning. The reasoning is that they want to show off something human. If it's just a mask, it's just a mask. That's one of the problems. So they want to have him smiling and do all these expressions.
Well, they actually had one of the Batgirls, Cassandra Cain. She didn't have the face area exposed. Like her mask was like completely covered. But that was mainly because she didn't really talk much. But they explained it in the universe.
Always should be with women. I'm gonna hell.
I just can't understand why you're single, Shiny. I just can't get it. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So weird. Yeah.
It's easy to be single. It's hard to.
But like you were saying, Glib,
listen
about
to women.
But like what you were saying, Glib, about being able to like eject out of the ship, like wearing EVA suit. I still remember like this one line from the first Star Wars movie where it's the battle at the Death Star at the end of the first movie, and this guy's having a problem with his X-wing, and one of his buddies says eject, and I'm like, eject? Like what good's that gonna do?
Right,
it's gonna throw yourself into space.
It's
like,
totally overlooked.
Like what's that gonna do?
You're gonna suffocate in space. Yeah, or you're going to crash and die.
People legitimately told me when I criticized that on the Mauler Discord that it was like, oh, it's the whole thing. Their whole thing ejects. Like, you've never seen that. Yeah, no, that's just a line that's left in the movie. That's a line that's left in a movie where the costumes don't match the dialogue. It's just a flaw. Period. I don't know what to tell people.
I suppose it would work for something like because if you see the clone pilots, they have like a full, well, excluding episode 3 because they have the weird helmets, but like clone pilots have like a full helmet on their face, like during episode 2. And most
So
of the
what you need is you need a suit that's going to protect you from fragmentation that comes off of all the other ships. You need something that's going to protect you from radiation. You need something that's going to be a closed system, and you need something that's and you need pressure. So what you need is a suit that's going to have little air bubbles or whatever in it that expand to keep your organs in place, and you need a breathing system. So it really would be a bulky thing.
And that doesn't look cool.
It doesn't look cool. And the other thing is like, this is a great way to segue into something about now that the coffee's hitting. The segue that I'm trying to say is that, have you noticed that in every TV show and in every movie or whatever, unrealistically, whether it's in a cockpit or it's the helmet themselves, there are lights that are pointing at the actor's face so that you can see their face, which is totally unrealistic. You would never have that. You know what I mean? You never have a light pointing
you've got
at your face.
You don't want lights like blaring in your face.
And that's everything
it's like
from
when you're
The
driving,
Expanse to Prometheus.
Like when you're driving at night, like you don't want to have any lights on in the actual.
Yeah, imagine you had your lights
itself.
on in your car. No, really, actually imagine, because what they do is they put a little light bar underneath at the bottom, and then they point it up. And so you get this kind of glow coming from underneath the car. That's
and it would make it, and because your eyes adjust to that light, it's going to make it incredibly hard to see outside into the darkness. And then imagine that you're in space, which is even darker.
Yeah, I don't. I think that should be I remember watching Mandalorian and seeing some of those shots and going, wow, this is really good interior work. That was one of my favorite things about Mandalorian was that they brought us back into the cockpits, and the harsh lighting of space was pretty present in there. I really liked that. But most shows and most things, they don't want to sacrifice the shot for realism, and that's kind of where science fiction and the rubber meets the road with science fiction, where aesthetics rule over scientific accuracy. Because you can also write yourself into a corner, let's say, where you're trying to be so scientific you present an unfeasible thing that you couldn't do in film. And I think that's what the point I've been making repeatedly over and over again, is that you need to be able to think about what you want story-wise first, and then decide what the technology is on a world-building level, and then when you're writing the story, obey those rules. Because there's a few things that you can sort of fudge around. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we have spaceships, right? That implies very powerful computers. That implies very high-level energy resources. So what else is out there in this universe? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, when I watched Cowboy Bebop for the first time, I was wondering why they were using like 9mm pistols or Glocks or something when it's supposed to be spaceships, and you'd think that they would have higher technology, but it ruins the whole presentation of the story if spaceships are not as mundane as cars are, if they're not just like regular vehicles that are, taken for granted. So that what it does is it creates retrofuturism, or it creates a futurism for a past present, or it creates a present out of the future. And I like those. Personally, my favorite thing is retrofuturism, because what it allows you to do is it allows you to create a nostalgic environment while also creating a future representative of that environment. So if someone were to do a Jules Verne adaptation, I would absolutely love to see somebody make a high-budget 1930s looking thing, where it's like the science fiction is all riveted. Because why would you use rivets ever on a spaceship? You'd never use rivets on a spaceship. But that's all they knew when they were making Flash Gordon serials. So when
it also adds a bit of detail onto the actual hull itself. If you just put rivets on there, it's a detail.
And all those ships look the same. They're either saucers or rockets, which is funny, right? And then you get something which is like the Star Trek ship out of that, which is a saucer mixed with rockets.
They're not really like rockets, though, are they? Because there's no flame, and that's one of the things which was told.
Okay, listen, you don't know the difference between phasers and deflector shields. That was something that fucking Gene Roddenberry yelled at Maurice Hurley for when he hired him on for season 2 of Star Trek. Maury Hurley wrote
he didn't know the difference between the deflectors and the shields.
No, he was fucking up the script.
Oh, shit.
And he was fucking up the script by confusing them, and then Gene got really mad at him, and Maury was like, it's just a wackadoo vision of the future. And they called Gene the great bird of the sky or something like that. But yeah, in his wackadoo, vision of the future, nobody has pants pockets. It's like, that's specifically Gene's idea. I mean, it's funny because it's like I'm frequently talking about how things should be kind of how the author intended them to. But then if the author's intention and effect have been proven to not be what is popular with the audience and with the creators of the show, then you want to, bend it. And in this case, it's like, how can you say to me that the future people don't have pockets or something? And everybody just walks around in a jumpsuit.
Yeah.
The future's. I think that there's interesting visions.
Well,
of the
I was
future
going to make a joke
depending
about
on what
dresses,
your
but
optimism is.
I think I'm already going to hell as it is.
Aren't those what's man skirt, man dress? What are those called again?
Kilts.
Tunics? Oh.
No. There's a specific derogatory term for it, but I just don't have the humor right now for it.
But to
Myrtle.
jump on what you were saying, Glib,
maybe
about
there's some jokes about the Scots in there as well. They don't have any pockets because they're always wearing skirts.
They don't have any pockets because they're dead broke losers. Get wrecked, Scott. No, that's not the reason.
But going off what you were saying, Glib, about like weapons, and you mentioned like Gene Roddenberry. I was reading.
Going off what you said, Glib. Fuck Scotland. Scotland sucks. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Weapons
fuck
remind me of Gene Roddenberry.
But sci-fi reminds me of how I want to genocide Scottish people. No.
Yeah, but I was reading. I was looking up this gun that popped up in a Resident Evil game. It was the gyrojet pistol.
That old Dagged stand. Can you pull up the video? Jamie, can you pull that up? Shiny, do you have a video of the gyrojet that you could put on screen for us while he's talking about it?
Wait,
I was
look up gyrojet pistol or rifle.
Yeah. It's like popped up like in two media that I know. It was in one of the James Bond movies. I forget which one. Not Moonraker.
It was the one where he goes to Japan.
Gyrojet.
That's the one.
Gyro. Yeah,
it shoots rockets.
Talfladermus, the YouTube channel Talfladermus.
But what I was going to say was, back when they first made this gun back in like the 1960s, the creator really wanted to get it out there. He really wanted to promote it. So he actually contacted Gene Roddenberry and he says, hey, can you feature this pistol on your show, Star Trek? And Gene Roddenberry is like, no, we want phasers. We want phasers, not a gun that shoots rockets.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
and
watch this.
This thing looks ridiculous, but it worked. It actually worked.
It works, but it's still ridiculous. That's the funniest thing, because it's a rocket-powered pistol, and that's just stupid. The idea of a rocket-powered weapon. I mean, that they took this idea and then kind of turned it into the bolt gun from 40K. But it's just stupid. It's like, you don't need fucking rockets.
It's so unnecessary.
It's unnecessary.
Yep.
Yeah. You just and then you compare that to the metal storm system that somebody invented. It's like the same idea where it's like, it's not really applicable. Weapons technology, when it comes to personal usage, it hasn't really changed that much since the M16 or the AK-47 came out. To everybody's chagrin, we're still just using short stroke and long stroke piston rifles or not direct injection. What's the word for it? Direct impingement on weapons, which is really just a very simple gas mechanical system. All of the mechanical systems for guns are basically just, you shoot the gun shoots, and then the excess gas helps it reload, and then you shoot again and just keep shooting. And the doctrine for combat hasn't changed that much because the logistics hasn't changed that much. But what's funny is that even though we have plane technology or we have shipping technology or whatever technology you want to talk about, it's still all rooted in regular human, hold this position kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're talking about science fiction, a rocket-powered pistol isn't really going to be the thing that differentiates. It's going to be something like the auto turret system from Terminator. It's a thing that actually would be a improvement on what you have right now. The thing is that a rocket added to a bullet doesn't really improve it.
It makes it more expensive.
It makes it more expensive.
Does, yeah.
It adds a whole bunch of elements that it makes it more prone. Maybe, I don't know what if this stuff gets wet. What if it gets hot? What if gets really cold? Like those are all things that are important. So when it comes to reality, it's like the lowest common denominator is really the thing that they go for, and the over complexity can lead to its own problems. I mean, there was something called a Davy Crockett, which was a handheld nuclear weapon that the shooter would die from.
If anybody's familiar in the chat with Fallout, the game series Fallout, it's literally the Fat Man.
It's actually worse than the Fat Man.
It's like on a tripod because you can't actually carry the thing.
The Fat Man's worse if you think about it, because the Fat Man is a rocket launcher that fires a nuke.
Well, the Fat Man is based on the PIAT, the Piat or whatever it is from the British,
right?
Where it's a spring-loaded thing. That's right. You could argue that's worse. But if you look at an actual picture, Shiney, can you pull up a Davy Crockett rocket?
Yeah. The Davy Crockett was a mortar system.
Right. It was so the spring mortar system is really. The military didn't stop really using that system until recently. And actually, if you look at it, the PIAT is one of the most the spring-loaded anti-tank weapon that could only fire a football field away.
Also,
was more efficient than
what would
a bazooka
you do
in a lot of ways.
If in the future someone named a fucking mortar rocket, or was it a mortar?
Whatever you're about to say, nuke. I'd love it. You want to name
someone to name a mortar nuke after you?
An inefficient prototype weapon that would never be used. If you want to name that after me, that'd be great.
Yeah,
that'd be great. What is this? Oh, it's the Glib. What does it do? It doesn't work.
The Glib actually would probably be like an alright name.
No, it has a podcast on Sundays.
Remember Iron Man 2? Oh, what's this thing? This is the mother-in-law.
That was pretty good. Man. Iron Man 1.
It's not the mother-in-law, it's the ex-wife.
The ex-wife. Oh, I thought it was the mother-in-law. Okay. The ex-wife. That's good.
So can you imagine how boring Iron Man would be if it was just about a guy that was a weapons designer and it was just like current day technology and all he did was build like a body armor suit? He didn't have any of the other technology. He was just a guy that created bombs.
Well, Iron Man, what does it do?
Why are you called Iron Man? Oh, because I shoot a lot of iron. Like it's just... Just no creativity. That's the thing, though.
Is the suit made out of iron? No, actually, it's made out of titanium. So you're really more Titanium Man than Iron Man, aren't you?
Well, now he's Nanomachine Man. Now he's Dead Man. But before that, he was Nanomachine Man.
Ouch.
Nanomachine Man.
Too soon. No, I'm
not
still
soon
mad.
enough.
I'm still salty. I'm still salty because I think that Captain America should have been the one that died. It doesn't make any. Yeah. We could probably do. We should do an MCU episode. We could just talk about all the steps in the process. We'll just start from Iron Man 1 and go through all of them. But the summation is that Captain America is a dude that's out of time. He only has one friend that is from his time period. Mm-hmm. And he's got no family. His only family that he would want to have is already gone and had their own life. And he's a man out of time and space. And so why don't you have him do the snap instead of Iron Man, who has a bunch of shit that he has to take care of? He's got technology, he's got a family, children, people that depend on him, and they kill him? Like, what is that?
But Glib, Captain America had to go back in time and bang his girlfriend.
But to do that, he fucks up the timeline again.
And he goes throughout from what was it, like the 1950s, 1960s, right? And he does nothing. He does nothing
on his ass.
Yeah,
he just sits on his ass and bangs his girlfriend.
Any time travel that is
also
not explicitly looping is bad.
Like, did he kiss his daughter or something, or was it his wife's?
Like
his
her
wife's
niece,
boyfriend?
I think. Isn't it like her niece or something like that? Like her niece,
niece. That's it. Yeah.
I think it's like her niece or something like that.
Oh yeah, so Captain America kissed. I guess because since they're married, it'll be his niece.
Ugh.
Look, I don't know what. I have no idea.
America.
I don't know anything about any of that. All I know is that Iron Man is cooler than Captain America. Screw you.
Agreed.
Iron Man. He's got all this cool stuff. He's got every time that I see him, he's got a new weapon or something like that. Captain America's like, I throw shield and it come back. How does it come back? It doesn't make any sense. What any
It's a
weapon
frisbee.
I think Shaq
Yeah.
proved
It's a garbage
that,
can
like,
lid.
nunchucks and weapon flails, weapons that are just loose, they'll just bounce all over the place. Why would you? Why don't you want a solid weapon that won't come back and hit you in the face or something like that? And it's like we all laughed at how stupid Captain Boomerang was, but that's just Captain America. That's just Australian Captain America.
Yeah, and Captain Boomerang's a villain.
Fuck Captain America in the MCU. I'm pissed off that he still does it. Like, how much funnier would it be if Captain America was going around with a shield, but then he also had like a Thompson submachine gun? It would be so funny to me. But they wouldn't do that because their idea of this
he had a pistol
Captain
in the
America is this little
movie, didn't he?
bitch.
Like he
Yeah, in the first
pulled
movie,
out
he had like
guns.
he did 1911.
Which is stupid as fuck, because how's he going to reload that shit with his shield on? It was like, wow, shoot 8 shots and then he's done. It's like, no, that's stupid. He should be
I
walking
suppose
around with an
'cause he's got,
MG42.
He's still got one hand free inside the shield because the shield like goes onto his like wrist.
He should have a bunch of magazines inside the shield and just be...
Yeah, there we go.
No, just don't carry a 1911. That's stupid. Don't carry a pistol into com. They wasted an opportunity to create a gritty, realistic Band of Brothers style Captain America movie where it's like they're stuck behind a wall or something and they can't get over it, and
just
he
because it's
runs
gritty
towards
and
it and jumps
realistic,
it. I want to see it.
Would that mean
Yes.
it was good?
Yes, absolutely. If it
Why?
was, dude, can you imagine how cool it would be to watch something? It's like Steven Spielberg's, like the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan. Everybody's dying and afraid, and then you just see a dude wearing red, white, and blue charging towards the enemy with a shield in front of him and a gun firing. That's what Captain America was designed to do in the comics. He was designed to be.
Happened in like Wonder Woman, essentially.
No, Wonder Woman copied him.
Where
That's
she
a
just
complete
goes.
ripoff. Wonder Woman
she
never
just-
was about war. No, that's stupid. By the way, Wonder Woman is a crap film, and it's only lifted up by the fact that the DCEU is even worse than every other movie.
It's the low expectations which makes Wonder Woman somehow good in people's eyes.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, Glib, if we're nitpicking Captain America, if you think about it, he's not actually a captain. Because
Well, that's
that was,
another problem.
No. Hold on, Glib. Let me explain. Because that was his stage name when they were promoting him as like the war films guy. So he's
Private
not
First Class America.
Yeah, so he's not technically a captain.
This is Specialist America, honorary captain. No, it changes. They change.
Master
All right, you
Sergeant
gotta
America.
sign on the dotted line. It says you want to change my name from Steve to Captain. Yeah, we want you to be called Captain America, but we're not giving you the rank. It's like the scene of Anakin Skywalker. We give you the rank of Master, but you are not on the council. We give you the rank of Captain, but you are not actually a captain. You are a lieutenant. No.
Yeah,
But it would be really
it should
good.
be like captain in quotations.
No, he should be. It would be much better if he was a captain. If he was just this like Audi Murphy dude, and everybody knew him as like this crazy lieutenant or something like that, and he was the leader of this small group of dudes, and then he got the test. That'd be interesting. But they need that thematic of he's a little baby until he gets the prick, until he gets the COVID vaccination. He's not able to.
Okay,
defeat
what they
the
should have
world
done,
wars.
going off of what you just said there, Glib, have him like go to like officer school. Have him like avoid combat. Like he instead goes to officers school. He becomes an officer. He's never seen combat, and like he's very smart tactically. He's a small, frail guy, but he's very smart tactically. Like he knows, okay, I need you to go over here and flank this guy around there, and then they're like, okay, we need a test subject for this super soldier program. Let's take this guy. He's really, really smart. Now let's give him muscle and enhanced speed and everything like that.
I mean, I totally understand why they did it the way that they did it, but I personally would have liked it better if Captain America was just like a low-level officer or something, right? And he's on the front line, and he's defending a post. And he's like, all right, I'm defending my post while all my men are retreating. And he's like mounting a machine gun, he's running around, he's getting shot up. Then he's shooting off all the remaining Nazi-looking guys who are. It's weird. They're like he keeps
Nazi-looking guys. So are they Nazis or are they just looking?
They're not. They're Hydra guys. So it's like right. So they're a
The
bunch of Hydra
Hydra
guys.
was like the rogue Nazi science.
Yeah,
division,
but
at
I'm
least
not.
in
I'm not.
film.
They're not regular guys. They're specifically like monstery kind of
Diverse.
No, well, yes,
Diverse
Thank you,
monsters.
racist Shiny, for that. Yes, diversity is monstrous. No, the thing I'm trying to say is that they're altered people, but they're like monsters, right? And they've got the masks on or whatever, kind of like what Snyder was trying to do with his fucking ripoff or whatever it was, or whatever Sucker Punch was. I don't even know. But the point I'm trying to get at is that you have these guys that are Hydra, and what they do is they capture Steve Rogers because he's trying to defend himself, and then as soon as he's run out of ammunition or whatever, he tries to shoot himself in the head, and he can't. Like, he physically can't commit suicide or whatever.
This is all of a sudden turned into like a very dark film, and you already got.
Well, that's what you
suicide,
what
like,
you want to
horrible-
get captured by the Hydra Nazis or whatever? No,
Fair
right?
enough.
It's like remember the Russian dude that was considered a hero because he was in Syria and he called down artillery on his position at the last second after defending his troops. It's the same story. So he wants to go down fighting. He's that kind of guy, like, and get a Medal of Honor kind of situation. But instead he gets captured, right? And the super soldier serum is an experimental Nazi serum, and they're going to give it to him because they don't think it works. And then they do find out it does work, and he uses his newfound powers to escape. And then they're like, we have to find that man because he's got the successful serum in him. And that's all they have because he destroys the facility in like a GoldenEye situation or something like that. But I would find it more interesting. What I really wanted was I wanted there to be a story that had more depth to it and more weight to it. Like, it's World War II, and they just kind of gloss over it in a montage sequence where they're just like kicking down doors. They didn't give his squad any time to do anything, and they didn't make World War II
they're just
actually
kind of
part of the story.
There, they don't really do anything to like flesh out his friend. Like even Bucky. Bucky gets like a few lines, and I forgot he was even a character in the film until Winter Soldier. By the time it came to Winter Soldier, I was like, wait, who's Bucky? Who the fuck? Oh, he's the guy which fell off the train. Oh.
Yeah, his
It really needed a
his
lot more
best
time to
friend-
flesh out his squad, and that was one of the biggest issues with the film itself. Especially his friends.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just I just felt like I was like, all right, I want to see World War II with Captain America added to it. Like, do you know the character Sergeant Rock? Anybody here? There's a comic book character. I think that's a DC thing. Sergeant Rock was about comic bookifying war, essentially. World War II, and then maybe Vietnam a little bit later than that. But it was World War II propaganda. And he kind of became this colloquial hero. So I kept thinking about him when I was thinking about what they were going to do for a Captain America story. Because it's like, this is a guy that's just there to be a sort of non-commissioned officer archetype that is what everybody's supposed to be, like the ideal, someone who's gruff and is able to make things happen even at a high cost. And so I was thinking it'd be very interesting if there was like a contrast, kind of like how we were talking about how Bucky is his only friend. Bucky is not really a super soldier, but he's there alongside him, and I really feel
just now,
like
very quickly, we got a super chat from.
Well, wait,
Atreya.
let me finish what I'm saying.
All right, sorry.
Fuck Atreya. I'm just kidding. I know that guy. Anyway, the point is that what I'm saying is that I like the contrast of a superhero with all these modern, not modern, but like all these ideals, and then the real situation that's around him. He's trying to stand up for something that is kind of a joke when you're in the heat of battle, when you're in a place that's just chaotic and people are dying because they decide to take the point instead of you, and you're still surviving. Like, having a guy actually go through that, and having Captain America sort of be back down into that position of a gruff, regular guy and having to deal with the fact that he can't save everybody is, I think, the essential super conflict. In the face of human, the nature of humans to be chaotic and violent, you have a guy that's supposed to represent the ideal in America and all of these different things like freedom, and he's faced with that. Those two things don't go together. It's a conflict, and somebody has to win. And the cost of that victory is going to be played on the main character's arc. So I wanted to see that, and I didn't really feel like that stuck with the character. I don't feel like the World War II... He never would fucking talk about his old World War II buddies. He would never get lamenting about it, and I don't remember that part. Am I missing parts of Captain America's writing where it was like that was a big deal for him? We used to fight people like you, Thanos, back in the 40s. That was fucking bullshit. That's such a dumb reference and stuff.
I think mainly my problem with Captain America, at least the movie version of Captain America, was yes, he's a man out of time. He grew up in the 30s and 40s, but and now well, not but now he's being thrust into present day, but he still has the mentality of like the 1930s and 40s. It's like, he's looking at Shield, who are doing like these covert, spying operations, and he's like, well, this is not how we used to do it back in my day. It's like, dude, back in your day, the enemy used to wear uniforms. Now they're civilians.
And fire lasers. They used to fucking shoot.
Well,
What happened to all that technology?
When you're
But you
like
understand what I'm
talking
saying,
about this,
though,
so
Glib.
I totally
I've got,
understand
like,
what you're saying.
a fun anecdote
Absolutely.
with like Captain America's like mindset. So I was watching like quite a while ago. I was watching Captain America with my mother, and we got from like the first Captain America film to Avengers, and she thought that when like Nick Fury says, I bet that I can surprise you, and then Captain America says you on like and then he pulls out like the tenner which he gives to Nick Fury. She thought he was being racist and tipping him because he thought Nick Fury was a doorman because he was black.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty explicit in the film that it's because of a bet, but she thought it was because he assumed he was racist.
Yeah, I didn't quite
Like,
get
he was
that at
racist and
first,
he
when I
assumed.
first saw that. But then, yeah, it's like, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, he did make a bet with him. But
I just
Yeah.
I just really didn't like I didn't like Captain America's movies, but I don't know why we're talking about this. We should talk about the MCU in another time, I guess. The MCU really disappointed me in the long run. It kept like the crazy thing for me, just as the final thing for me with the MCU on this topic, but I felt like all the stuff that I wasn't expecting to be good, and because the comics ended up being good, and all the stuff that was good in the comics ended up lesser, except for the choice for Samuel L. Jackson to play what's his name?
Nick Fury.
Nick Fury.
Nick Fury. Oh, jeez. All I could think of was Frank Castle for some reason. Yeah, Nick Fury.
Now, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. Samuel L. Jackson playing the Punisher.
Right. Exactly. I'm trying to remember who. I don't. You remember the dude that was the voice of Max Payne?
Oh yeah.
James McCaffrey. I would love to
yeah.
see him as the Punisher, like a kind of older Punisher.
Yeah,
And,
that'd be interesting.
But that's kind of because they're the same character anyway.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Death Wish. I
So
think Punisher is based on the Death Wish character from Bronson. Have you guys seen Death Wish at all? Kind of
I've
a low
seen
budget
like parts
movie.
of it, yeah.
I love it. He's just a guy that his like family gets killed, just like Max Payne or whatever.
The Punisher.
The
Well,
Punisher.
not
yeah.
really,
And-
not really the Punisher, but like in that vein,
well,
yeah.
it's very similar. It's like it has to do with crime. It has to do with organized mobs and stuff like that. And then he just goes and starts to like murder everybody. That like Dirty Harry, vigilantism. That is the prototype of the Punisher, which is also sorely missed from the MCU because it's a challenge to everything that they're doing. You'd think that there would be like you could add the Punisher into the MCU as this guy that just he kills and they're like, no, you can't kill Punisher or whatever, and then it's involved in the Sokovia Accords or whatever. But in
I don't
retrospect,
like
in the
what they-
future, we're gonna analyze the movies and be like, they weren't that good. Or I'm just wait. It's gonna be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Somebody's gonna be like, oh, this was just a really good TV series.
I
And that's
don't.
gonna be that.
I think we've talked about this before. I think it was on Morning Nonsense. We talked about this before, but I didn't like what they did with the MCU version of the Punisher, like back when it was on Netflix. Because they portrayed him as like a total psychopath. Like in the comic books, he's a calm, cool, collected. He plans things out. He makes up backup plans. He tries to minimize civilian casualties. He thinks before he acts. Then you watch the TV version of it, the Netflix version of the Punisher, and he's a psychopath. He charges in, guns blazing. He runs
He's
out of ammo.
about to kill
he's
some
like,
guy because he's about to walk it onto the roof.
right.
Like, he's
really
holding the
easy.
gun against the door, ready to kill this elderly veteran.
But he's like completely, a psychopath, a sociopath, and it's like, I'm supposed to be rooting for you, like
Right.
you're crazy, like, like
Well,
you
that's
would
an
be you would
interesting-
be a villain if there weren't any other villains around.
You can portray him like that. That's how kind of other characters think he is. They're like, well, this guy's crazy. But then he's all...
Well, that's fine if
He's
you
all
wanna,
coordinated.
If other characters think he's a psychopath, but he's not. Like, he's like, no, that's just how people see me. I'm actually, I'm calm, I'm cool, collected. I plan shit out, in advance,
Didn't he also
And-
kill
and other-
police officers?
No,
Like
it's
in-
not. There's. You
I
have
think
to
they were
talk about-
corrupt police
is the-
officers.
No, because the police were defending someone like a criminal because
Well,
they
it's
didn't
story
want it-
dependent. Story.
Yeah.
It
The
depends on
Punisher
which
to-
story you're talking about. He doesn't just like his policy is not to kill, whatever. It's to get.
Like
He wants
civilians.
to end
Oh,
crime.
wait,
He's
no, I think it was
Batman that
cops. I think
kills.
it was like
That's what
the-
I always tell people.
anyway, the FBI were like defending a criminal or something. They didn't want the criminal to be killed because he was linked to someone. So, like, the Punisher ended up killing the FBI agents to get to the person.
Was
Right.
that
I mean,
was that
he
in the
would kill
TV
anybody
show or
that
in the comics?
In the show.
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
Shit, I don't
been a while.
fucking. I just skimmed. Through
I'm
the
just
show.
very loosely remembering it.
Yeah.
I really like John, the actor in it, but he
doesn't half-ass it. I'll give him
so-
that. He doesn't half-ass it.
Well, he's
I'll
a
give him
good
that.
guy. He's a good guy to pick for that. I mean,
Right,
there's only a
exactly,
few
you
guys. Did you see the Pacific? He's in the Pacific. There's a bunch of good actors in the Pacific. Have you guys anybody watched the World War II Japanese?
Oh yeah, that's
HBO,
right. He was in that.
Steven
He was in
Spielberg?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's John Bassilone's buddy that gets killed, and
Oh.
the guy that plays John Bassilone in that would have been an amazing Punisher, like an Italian dude.
Yeah.
But I think that there's like a short list of people that you would hire to hire for that. And I think that's not the problem. The problem is that the Netflix television shows were really not. They didn't have the budget. They weren't
That's
that
true.
interesting, and they didn't have good writing. Like people kept telling me Daredevil. I'm like, what is exceptional about this show aside from the fact that it's Daredevil? If the show is not interesting, if it was a different character, if it didn't have a Marvel brand on it, then I don't want to watch it. I don't read comics because the main character is in them. I read them because they're the good stories about the main character. There's a reason why I don't go back and read the Clone Saga of the Spider-Man series over and over again because it's not interesting.
I will
You know what I
say
mean?
I like their depiction of
You just have
Kingpin.
something against clones, Glib.
Yeah, I do.
I will say I
Well,
like
you
their
get clones,
depiction
you
of
clonophobe.
Kingpin in the Daredevil series. Vincent D'Onofrio. I liked him in whenever I saw him on in the clips from the Daredevil show. He was really good as Kingpin.
He's good
I
in
think.
everything.
Yeah, he is.
He's good in everything. And all the actors that have played Kingpin are good. I also thought that Michael Clark Duncan's Kingpin was pretty good too. Even though it was so funny, like nobody talks about that because the movie was bad, but he was one of the best parts of the movie. And it's also like they all want to be like, oh, ethnically, we race swapped the characters. Like, well, Kingpin was a pretty good race swap, I think.
Yeah, I think
Nobody
so.
gives a shit about that.
Well, plus
Everybody wants
it's
to talk about
Michael
him.
Clark Duncan. The guy's huge. He can play that role. Definitely.
See, that's right, exactly, and that's so frustrating because he totally fits the bill, and
Yeah,
he
exactly.
based his performance on the character, and that's excellent. I mean, if there was a guy that was, if there was a guy that looked like Kingpin, he wouldn't be able to move. He's just Kingpin is like a giant blob of a human being in the comic books. How are you going to present that? Well, make him a big dude, like an actual big dude.
Yeah, they actually try to
think we've
explain
gone
it.
off
They're like,
topic.
well, he's actually 97% muscle. It's like, really? That's
Yeah.
97% muscle. Okay.
Yeah, right. This comic books. We have to remember, and it's really frustrating to remember.
Okay.
This, but comic books were
X and Zero, X and Zero. No. We are not going to get Shaq to play Kingpin. No.
I am Shaq. I'm Kingpin. I'm gonna defeat Spider-Man and Deadpool. I'm Shaq.
Yeah.
Call it. We get
Anyway.
Shaq.
Cool.
Who could Shaq? Well, now I'm interested. Who could Shaq play in a movie? Like, he wasn't an actor. That was the problem.
Yeah.
He wasn't a good actor and wasn't a good rapper. He was just having fun with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there was that one. I think is it Marvel or DC? Steel. Is it? I think it's DC,
Steel.
right?
Yeah, he plays John Steel.
Yeah, isn't that DC? DC Comics.
Yeah, Steel kind of sucks because he's like he builds a suit based on Superman, but he's not as strong as Superman, so he gets his shit kicked in all the time. He's kind of like a character that's part of the Superman thing where because he's not as strong as Superman, but he still has he still fights similar level powered characters. We can kick his ass, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Anyway, super chats.
Also,
Andrew Clark for $5. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck
all right,
up.
So anyway, I don't like how Star Labs reminds me of Star Trek.
Okay, look, if you do not shut up, you're not getting your cut of this. $5. You're not getting your cut of this $5 if you don't shut your mouth.
Hello there. My name's Maggie Thatcher.
I get to keep the full $5 then. Okay. What if we live in a timeline where someone...
1 for you and 7 for me.
What if we live in the timeline where someone went back in time to stop Hitler from becoming an architect because his buildings were dangerous?
So my time travel story idea...
Wasn't he a painter?
My time travel story idea is that the original idea was, well, what happens if you actually go back? What happens if you go back to stop Hitler? Why hasn't that happened yet, right? Like, you'd think that somebody would time travel to stop Hitler, and then you go, oh, well, no, the time cops would stop him, right? Well, what happens if you time travel and then it doesn't work?
Well,
that's the thing. That is where my story goes. So you go back in time to kill Hitler, and then you find out that you can't kill Hitler because you get taken somewhere else, and that's the start of my time travel
You end up
story.
like Loki.
Well, you end up in a place, but I can't give it away without ruining the magic of the story.
Well, they actually let me see if I can find it.
Don't tell me there's an anime that has my story idea already. It'll ruin my day.
Well, no,
don't do it. No.
You'll like this one.
What happens
if I can find it?
If Hitler went back? If we went back in time and Hitler became Captain America?
Oh, they don't have the actual.
What'd you do before
What
the
if
war,
Jordan
Adolf?
Peterson went back in time and became the Red Skull?
Now we're talking. Now we're getting somewhere. And he just kind of subverted everything, and it was like, instead of it being Hydra, it's a lobster, and he's just like, he's talking about personal responsibility. Literature double.
It's like in that one Just the animated episode where the guy goes back in time, basically kills Hitler, and then hijacks his entire movement.
That sounds good to me. Yeah. He just turns people into like Germany into really self-responsible people. I'd be down for that. yeah. You Hitler, you need to clean your room before you can clean up Germany.
Before we go after the Jews, we need to clean the rooms.
Yeah, he just starts like talking about Jungian ideas.
Well, I don't know.
The Jews are the shadow.
I don't know if you remember this. It was on Netflix. I think it might still be on there. There was an anthology series called Love, Death, and Robots, where and it's like, I think it's like 17 episodes or 13 episodes, and one of them is like, what happens if Hitler died before World War II or World War I actually. And it's like 6 different scenarios, and they each get progressively sillier and ridiculous, and it's hilarious.
Well, I thought like Love, Death, and Robots was just random, like animated stuff.
It's an anthology.
Yeah,
it's an anthology. Yes, it's actually really good if you watch the first one. I haven't watched the second season of it yet.
I think I've seen the one where it's like the dude or the woman that's running away from the dude, and he's chasing her. Accidentally finds her work, and then it keeps going, and it ends with her killing him, and then it's like an endless cycle.
It's an endless loop of them killing each other.
Weird one.
Yeah,
I don't. That sounds like Deathloop from the new game that's coming out, which I'm actually excited for. Have you guys heard about that at all?
I've heard about it. Yeah, it looks really good, and they're trying to kill each other. Yeah.
Yeah, and they do it over and over again. My time travel story is a little bit different. I really wish I could talk about it, but I haven't finished the script yet. Once I copyright it, we can have a stream about it.
But yeah, if you ever get a chance, Glib, if you have a Netflix account, check it out. I forget what the episode is like stylized as like, if you're in the future and you're reading on like an iPad, like, you know, what would happen if Hitler, you know, wasn't, you know, if Hitler was killed before World War II or World War One, because they show him like getting thrown out of his art school, and he's like yelling about it, and then he sees like a little Jewish kid on the street, and he picks on him, he beats him up, and then like 3 hulking Jewish guys come up on him and kick the shit out of him, and that's like the first scenario. But I tried to find
Anyway,
like
it's 17 minutes since the donation originally, but I'll get to the second donation, which is a tray of
La 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 la.
first person to donate to the show gets on my level, plebs. Well, we've already had like donations of $65
You
on the
can
last
donate
show
to this
that we
stream
did.
if you can answer my 3 questions. 1. What is your favorite color? No.
what is
2,
the
what
air
is-
speed?
What is the meaning of life? Like,
What is the airspeed of an unladen what is it, swallow or sparrow?
I think it's. Oh, now I don't know.
I think
Swallow or
it's
sparrow?
swallow. I think it's swallow. Yeah.
What was the question that I asked in that movie? Was it a swallow or a sparrow? Well, I think it was. Ah! By the way,
I
Monty-
especially love when he trumped the one guy. He's like, "What's your favorite color? Red. No blue." Boing! It's
yeah,
like, dude, you don't know your favorite color? I'm like, what the hell?
I love it. Sorry, Glib Steins Gate tried that. All right, what? I haven't seen.
No idea what that is. Well, your day's been
Sounds
ruined,
familiar.
Glib. There you go.
Let me see where. They can send text messages to the past, thereby changing the present. That's fucking dumb. Next.
It sounds like the in
That's not what I'm
Enterprise where
saying either.
they would prank call the past, like the future people, like they would teach kids to make time communicators out of basically fuck all.
No, my time
But it-
travel story involves different timelines have different rules for time travel, but the timeline that the main character is coming from, time travel is not allowed. Now I'll let you work out what that means, but I'll tell you when you actually see my movie or whatever that I'm working on.
Okay, that's maybe.
Imagine the Bermuda Triangle, but time travel.
I
what I
actually
mean?
had an idea like that. Like I was
my
writing
idea. You were stealing subconsciously. No, I'm just kidding.
probably.
No
but
way.
no, I had like this idea. I was writing it for a while. I still have it where like if you like go to like certain spots in the world, you can actually like walk through like a portal into like another dimension, and there's like people from like other time periods, you know, living in this alternate dimension, sort of like the Bermuda Triangle, but it's like
Exactly.
these entrances
Exactly.
are everywhere, and you can't go back.
Yes. Now we're talking. Now we're getting to a place where it's like a Twilight Zone episode, and you have to work out a problem, and then there's a meta narrative that's underneath that the main character doesn't know about, and then there's personal issues referring to what they were going through. Yeah, man, that's you know, Back
And
to
my
the
main
Future
character-
4 is what I'm calling it, but it's not Back to the Future.
Yeah, and my main character was going to be like a sheriff or a deputy who goes through, and he's now got to become the sheriff, and he's got to, maintain these people. Like, you know, they're speaking like different languages from different time periods, and he's got to
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
make sure they don't kill each other.
See, mine. I can't tell you. I can't tell you who's there. Damn it. But you'll like it. It's very similar. I think that the commonality of a story is also something that is enjoyable for people. It's like, somebody wrote an idea that's similar to what I had. But anyway, we can get back to the sci-fi discussion. I don't know how we got here from MCU comic books and whatever.
Yeah.
Davy Crockett rocket launchers.
We somehow managed.
I want Captain America to blow up Hydra
I
headquarters.
want him to carry a fat man
Needs
from the
to
Fallout
like do
series.
the soldier rocket jump from Team Fortress 2, where he like
Oh,
flies
no.
it down
The
on the
nuclear-
ground and it launches up in the air. Well, that'd
That
be
would
like
be
one
awesome.
hell of a rocket jump, wouldn't it?
Maggots, and then he just flies over there. That'd be awesome.
Launches him into space.
I can imagine a source filmmaker thing where it's Captain America acting like the soldier from TF2. Red spy is on the base. A red
guy that
skull is on the base.
The guy that did the voice work for the soldier from Team Fortress 2 died.
Yeah, he
I
passed
think
away.
he died like
Did he?
last
Oh.
year, I think it was.
Yeah, he did.
They actually did like a tribute to him as well, too.
Yeah, that's.
I think
I wonder what they
noticed
do
on
now when they
statue or
need
something
like
in the game.
because they do the odd Team Fortress 2 like animation. Actually, they're not doing that anymore, are they? I think actually stopped development on Team Fortress 2. Like any kind of special events, or when it comes to like any new items, they've just kind of stopped making new stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I suppose we needed another topic to talk about for a while before it goes into a giant tangent there. So how about we start talking about like one thing I found interesting is like the advantages and the disadvantages of things like CGI and miniatures, because I don't think it's quite as clear cut, because there are lots of advantages and disadvantages when it comes to like both.
If you're gonna do a backdrop where you have cities, it's better to do extensions on miniatures. If it's like a sci-fi thing, and with the digital technology, you can easily place characters into a scene and that kind of thing, scaling it down. But I maintain that you want everything in camera as much as possible. Anything you can't do in camera, you want to do CGI. But pure CGI does not look as good as an actual material thing. If you look at Blade Runner 2049, there's a lot of scenes that are miniatures where the ship is flying low. It looks really good. And then there's a scene where they cut to Las Vegas and it's in the future, and it's CGI, and it looks like it comes from a completely different movie. The surfaces don't look real, and the angles don't look real. It's wrong feeling. And I think it's because if you can identify that something is CGI, it reduces the realism factor for it. Whereas I think that it's a little bit more difficult to remove your suspension of disbelief with something like prosthetics, with something that's physical, because it's real. So if something is real and it's there, convincing people that it's that thing that they think it is the battle. Like you have, I don't know, a tentacle helmet or something like that you have to put on the character for Twilix or whatever. For that to look realistic, it should be there. If you had CGI headdresses, it wouldn't look good. You know what I mean? And I think that applies to buildings. You need to be able to figure out where you add in stuff. And I think adding and extending is what CGI does best when it comes to worlds. But I would much prefer a scale miniature than completely CGI anything if it's a live action.
One of the things which I suppose which I was thinking about when I was writing some of this down was, like, for example, the shot in like Return of the Jedi where you know, like the Falcons going past the CR-90, that shot, and like there's so many things going in the background that like the scaling of the miniatures kind of off, especially with like the perspective, because the motion technology isn't quite perfect as well. As like
what is this
a lot
one
of these
again?
models are like, while they're supposed to be different sizes, they're actually quite a similar size when it comes to the miniatures. So like it creates difficulties when compositing all these like things together, so they scale and move independently when they really shouldn't be, when the movement's just supposed to be coming from the camera. Like if you're having multiple objects and the camera's moving in different ways when it should be the one camera, that's an issue which can come when you're compositing a lot of miniatures in one shot, which was something that they were very much pushing when they were making Return of the Jedi. Or you could even just have really shit miniatures in the background, like some of the TIE fighters. They didn't have enough models, so they just bought toys and just threw them in the back.
The thing that people don't know about George outside of Hollywood is that he's cheap. And Return of the Jedi was cheap. And he didn't pay people to come back. He didn't pay his pyrotechnics guy to come back. He didn't pay a lot of people that were previously, because he didn't want to deal with the unions and all these different things. He wanted David Lynch to direct Return of the Jedi. He wanted, I think, David Fincher or something was on the docket. I don't know. Maybe that's completely inaccurate. But there was a bunch of different people that... I think he wanted Spielberg to do it, but he didn't want to pay the DGA, something crazy like that. So he got Richard Marquand instead. The Millennium Falcon model burned down and they didn't rebuild it. Like, there's a whole bunch of stupid decisions that are in that movie. Return of the Jedi is really the transition point between the prequel mentality and the old school mentality that came before. I think that the further away we get from it, the more Return of the Jedi looks bad. But the issue at that time, because it was still the 80s, is that the compositing techniques were still kind of manual. So if you have a situation where you want a lot of ships in the background, that means a lot of different passes, which means degrading the film. Every time that you do another composite pass, the film looks worse. So if you look at these old movies that have a lot of effects shots in them, you can basically see that the effects shots look a little bit darker. They look a little bit dirtier. They look a little more smudged than the other ones. Just the period one. Like if you look at Blade Runner, it's like that very obviously. And that's all because of the manual technique. But now, if you have CGI, you can composite a bunch of real-world elements in real time really easily, whether they're 2D or 3D or what have you. So when I'm talking to people that are involved in the virtual backlot staging thing, and I was talking to them about my movie, because I had my science fiction movie, I wanted to build an interior set that was going to be a futuristic apartment. And the story is about a guy who plays virtual world video games. I think the name that I was working with was Retcon or something like that. But the story of Retcon basically is... the reason why I didn't do it was because Ready Player One came out, right? So imagine like you have a Matrix bed or that stupid bed that... Or like Snow Crash, I think that book. Has anybody read that? Where it's like you submerge yourself in something, or like there's light that reads your... that implant... Like some sort of two-way connection between your brain and the computer world. And the idea of my story is that everybody that can't afford to live in the real world, and everybody that needs a job that can't find a job in the real world, LARPs like they're in a Disney island or something like that, right? Like if you're playing a video game, but your whole day is LARPing as a blacksmith, so that other people that are playing a video game can have real people to interact with, right? Kind of like a Westworld situation. So the character wakes up and he walks by a window, and for me to tell the audience what is happening and where they are in time after being in a virtual video game world, you need to have a future world. So you have giant apartment buildings, whatever. And we were discussing about how to do this. How do you create a science fiction backdrop? And he was like, well, his opinion was that all the CGI buildings look like shit. Like they just don't look good. So what you need is extensions. And that was his opinion after years of being in the business and seeing all the different things from the manual era to the modern era, where he was going to Shanghai, China to try and build these unreal virtual stages. That was part of what the company was selling themselves off of. So I am adamant that there is a happy medium that we exist in, where digital technology is able to cover for the physical limitations of scaling, of multiple shots being composited on top of each other, those kinds of things.
Okay, well, I don't think anything else on the other than just actually talking about like the ship's designs themselves, like kind of going back to what we were talking about originally.
I want to talk about I want to talk about the ship design okay. I really like the Enterprise design, but I don't like any of the other Star Trek ship designs that aren't flagships. I like all the flagships. I like the Bird of Prey. I like the what's the Romulan ship called? The Warbird. Romulan Warbird is one of my favorites from TNG. But realistically, those ship designs are rather silly. And I think we were talking about that. Like the Enterprise is a ship design. I don't think it's a good ship design. Do you guys? I'm sure the chat's going to find that to be an interesting opinion.
Which Enterprise?
Any of them. The idea of the saucer, the idea of the ship by itself, just like the way that the nacelles are. Like you have all the you have these nacelles, right? And how do you get to them? The only way is to get through the turbo lifts, and they're at an angle where they're kind of away from the rest of the ship. How do you access from the engine room the actual things that are generating thrust? It doesn't really make sense to me. It's just a visual motif, which I think goes back to what we were saying before, which is aesthetics over practicality.
I'll be honest though, when it comes to like the Enterprise designs, one of my least liked designs in Star Trek is actually, this is going to be really fucking unpopular, the Enterprise D.
Which is the Enterprise D? I don't know the differences between these. Is that which?
This is D.
So the one from
the Galaxy Class.
That's better than the original for me.
I'll be honest, like it's really fat and like this I don't like how fat it looks. It's like as a design, and it's a bit too curvy.
All sizes matter, Shiny. Stop being
It just
fat.
looks
Stop fat
unbalanced as a
shaming
design.
Stop fat shaming my ship, Ensign. No. Yeah, you don't like it. I don't. What do you think about glowing lights on the side of ships for the sake of the audience, just to give them scale? That's like
what do you mean from like the windows?
Yeah, you need the glowing windows to give it some kind of like scaling. That's what all that is. And like the same goes for the textured details on Star Destroyers and the Star Wars ships. They're all textured because if they were just flat, they wouldn't look like they had scaling to them. That's what all those kludgy bits are for.
The greebles.
Right. And I think we were saying the Expanse is like the most realistic representation of a spaceship. I mean, you can't really think of anything else, right? Have you seen Battle Beyond the Stars? Look up that ship. That's the titty ship that James Cameron designed.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I was gonna show the Star
I didn't watch the movie.
Okay,
I didn't watch the movie, but I saw a review
you can show the
for
Star
it.
Destroyer.
So what? Looking it up again?
Don't do a CGI Star Destroyer. Do a regular Star Destroyer.
From the movie. Okay.
You mean a model?
Yeah, like an actual model, because that's going to be more representative. And by the way, the other thing that comes from making models is that you actually
ones,
physically
are not in that high resolution.
Really? I mean, just from the movie itself. You don't have a picture from the movie? You don't have the movie on hand? I can get it.
The only movie I have on hand is like the Disney Plus, and it won't let me screen share that.
Oh, Shiny, you don't have the 4K 77 Ultra.
I have it on
HD.
Blu-ray, but I don't have a way to get that Blu-ray onto my computer.
Really? If you get Make
I don't have
MKV and then like a $30 or $50 or whatever Asus or LG Blu-ray drive, you can rip it.
I don't have a Blu-ray drive.
I fucking have a Blu-ray drive, and that's how I rip movies, and that's why I love high quality shit, baby. But yeah, you don't have the picture, do you? Do you want me to send you one?
Well, I've got one here, but it's not incredibly high resolution. Let me just pull it up.
Because the ships are white. I don't think people take that into account. Like they think that Star
it's only
Destroyers
the
are gray.
darkness.
Oh, that is okay. That's a little better, I guess. Like all that texture, if it wasn't there, it would just look like a slab. It would just look like a model. You have to have all that added extra shit to make it look like it's to scale.
And I tell you, the greebles are like some of the harder parts when it comes to like making a model. At least when it comes to the CGI.
Almost all the good sci-fi shit is just garbage glued onto stuff. Like the Back to the Future car, the tubing and cables and stuff that doesn't mean anything. It just has to look like it does something. And it has to be coordinated so that people can like turn on the buttons and know what they mean in the world, you know what I mean? But it's mostly about texture so that you can give it scaling. It's mostly about visuals of the lighting and switches and stuff so that you feel like something mechanical is happening. All that's preloaded with what they're saying. But when you have a visual motif like this, like I remember talking to you about some of the stuff that you were doing with the CGI. Like this shot works because there's other things to scale it to, and because the biggest shape is also mitigated by smaller shapes on top of that.
Sensei Ryu in chat says, now show Spaceballs 1.
Yeah, I'm down to do that. Oh, the Jeffries tubes. That's right. So you got to crawl through the Jeffries tubes to get to the fucking... That's not a good design. At least it's not... I really, really want to review the TNG movies and the TOS movies, because Red Letter Media or Mr. Plinkett never did the TOS movies, and I think that those are pretty good movies. TNG movies are god awful. Have you guys watched any of those?
Yes.
They're so bad. I can't even believe. Like I can't watch them. They're not.
The only one which
I
can watch is like First Contact.
I love watching Star Trek 6 and seeing how they converted the Enterprise from TNG into an old
First Contact.
ship.
That's the one where they go back in
That's
time,
the Borg.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, where they go back in time.
Starship Troopers, right?
This is a Spaceballs one.
Oh, this is Spaceballs? It looks like the Starship Troopers ships. But yeah, that's a bunch of kludgy bits on it. Doesn't look bad to me, but see, when you look at the smooth part of the ship, you can see it looks like, oh, what is that? Just a ship that's painted? When the rule of thumb when it comes to designing models is that you want to be overly detailed because the detail is lost a little bit. So when you give it a hyper level of detail,
there is also a level where it just becomes like visual noise, though. Oh, Red Dwarf. Oh fuck! I can't believe I didn't think of that.
You can look at the Red Dwarf ship. You can look at the Starship Troopers ship. I remember seeing that
model
in
shot.
Oh
person.
yeah, the Starship Trooper ship. That one was just gray.
It was kind of like this. It was like
And
the
what I
idea
find
that the
amazing-
ship was
Shorter.
just
It
a
was shorter, and it
a
had
space
that.
train.
It also had that. I don't want to say coning tower. It was like a radar or something like that on the top of the ship. And it got knocked off by an asteroid.
That sounds very familiar to Star Wars, but I remember that the miniature unit was my dad's unit on Starship Troopers. That was his, or part of what he was doing for the effects for Sony at the time.
What
So
I find amazing
that was
is
that was the beginning of my experience of film. Was really like I was 8 when I was watching them create these things. This this looks good, but the lighting's bad. It's just like oh, this ship's flying on a, what is it doing? It's fucking being towed, and it's just one axis, just dragging across.
Well, they were
one
quite
light.
limited by the studio itself.
Yes,
And this
but
model was actually made for like next to nothing.
No, yeah, you can tell, but it does look good for what it is. A little bit of weird of shape there. That shot,
Because Red Dwarf itself, with its first season, so many people didn't believe in this show that they just kind of gave them a piss poor budget, and it kind of gives it an interesting aesthetic where it was quite limited in the.
Some of those blobby bits just look like garbage on it. The problem with this is that they're trying to do these close-up shots, and there's nothing to compare it to in scale. There's no, like, if you had like little tiny, like if it was flying through a field of asteroids and there were these little tiny rocks around and stuff like that, or something like that to give it scale, or if there was something in the background. I mean, this is raw footage, so that it's not composited. That's kind of a nice shot. That's a little better. But when you get that close in the detail, you need more highlights. Like they needed to outline all those little. Everything they should have highlighted by adding a dark color or a lighter color, the edging, so that it would look a little bit more like those plates were actually sized the way that they were. Obviously, if they had more money for the budget, they'd put more fiber optics in there. They'd have glowing stuff or whatever. It's not such a bad shot, but
Well, that's the intro shot, where it shows the title of the show.
yeah.
Da, 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 da.
Anyway, what was the other one that I was? You should put up Space Cop. Do you remember Space Cop by the Red Letter Media guys? Because they didn't understand scaling when it came to miniatures, and it's really obvious that you can see that
I'll look it up.
it doesn't work. And then the other thing that'd be interesting to look at is the Star Trek the Motion Picture with they have really, really terrible. It cycles between really excellent model work and absolutely terrible matte painting work at times. Even though it's done by Matthew Urisic, Matthew and Richard Urisic are like two special effects legends, and Matthew is the one that was able to figure out the conversion process to make matte paintings really realistic looking. See, now they're shooting stuff at it to give it scale, and it looks a little better. It's a little weird that smoke is in space, though, but
I think it's supposed to be like tiny asteroids or something.
right, yeah, like I was saying,
an asteroid storm.
like they're going through a field, like there's rocks and stuff that gives it this idea that there's something there, that to give the ship scaling. And also when you add the smoke, it gives this kind of ethereal effect that we see a little bit right here. It makes it look like they're in a place, as opposed to just being filmed on a black matte soundstage. Yeah, I like that. That's a little better. And digital would be able to help with all of this, because digital you can add in anything you want on top of the composite. But if you just had a digital ship, it wouldn't look tangible. And tangibility is kind of what you want from special effects. You don't want people to be like, "Oh, that's a CGI." You want them to go, "That's real," or as real as possible.
I'm actually kind of tempted to watch like the Starburg one now.
You should
I
watch.
put up
Go on.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
go ahead, Glib.
No, I was going to say
this
we
actually
should, we
has-
should watch we should watch people build other ships. We should
No,
do the
because I'm
James
very
Cameron building his titty ship.
I kind of want to see the featurette with Red Dwarf here that we just accidentally came across, if you don't mind.
You
Talk
just like
about the
Red
models
Dwarf.
themselves. I do like Red Dwarf.
You're just British.
I am British. Yes.
I put up in the Discord a picture of the ship from Mystery Science Theater, the Satellite of Love. That looks like it looks like a giant dog bone.
It looks like a giant dog bone, yeah. But it has all the kloogie bits on it. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. All the whatever. That's so funny. It's got a
December
radar dish on it.
1990, Red Dwarf came
December
to Circuit
1990. I was eating
On
haggis
Tuesday,
and Aurora.
in front of a live audience. Series 4 was performed and recorded.
I like how they have the
So
little robot
began my
going.
involvement with the show,
That was one of the
starting
Scottish.
with props and set dressing, to eventually building miniatures for
accent is
Series
this?
8. First up were the Starbug controls. Ed
Sounds
Wythe,
kind of
the
Scottish.
director, wanted
Yeah.
these to be centrally mounted onto
Maybe
an
Welsh.
arch,
That's
good. I
which
like
could be
that.
swung between
That's
the seats
cool.
to whoever was piloting. I put it
Because the
together
fucking
on
Millennium
set,
Falcon doesn't have a.
and immediately
doesn't have a
Craig
yoke.
broke it.
How do you pilot the Millennium Falcon?
You pull levers.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
Libra,
exactly.
wasn't it?
How do you
should
fly this
probably
thing,
see.
Chewie?
There's no controls here. I've got an Xbox gamepad.
You just never see a shot of him holding it.
I'd actually be interested, like, if this anyone ever designs a ship in real life, where because you know, like the car which they set up that you could drive for like an Xbox gamepad to prove it was possible. I want to imagine like someone hooks up an Xbox gamepad to like an actual spaceship and just controls it with that.
I remember in Men in Black 2 when they pressed the red button and it turned the car into like into a not quite a spaceship, but like it flew. Out popped a PlayStation 2 controller.
Anyway, Sensei Ryu says it was as a Glasgow accent. So yeah, I was right, Scottish. There are many like different accents in like the UK and Scotland and Wales, so it's always quite difficult to try and nail it down to like which part it's from specifically.
I don't know accents. I only know fake accents.
Yeah.
But
This 9-foot tall landing
Hold on a
leg
second,
was
really
used
quick.
as a foreground piece.
You were talking Men in Black.
yeah, the
That is
second
a s-
movie.
Now that is a retro-futuristic aesthetic that works without any question from the audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything's stainless steel, 1950s looking. Everybody's just wearing suits. I think that it's very telling that you could make a functioning aesthetic in the modern time featuring aliens and extraterrestrials, take it seriously, make it into a comedic farce, and it's carried by aesthetics that are non-specific because it's about the job. The job and what it represents in popular culture is going to define what everything looks like. So you're like, all right, what are a bunch of G-men, the men in black suits or whatever from the 50s that everybody was like, oh, who are these guys? It's the, secret division, the alien division of some organization. That's more the mystery of that and the aesthetic of that are tied into each other. Like how do all the science fiction elements of Men in Black work? No idea. They never go into it. But it serves its function and you never question it because the aesthetic fits it. That's why you don't think until later about how Star Wars ships work or whatever.
Well, another classic example of like not explaining like technology or anything is Ghostbusters, the first Ghostbusters movie. Like they never explain their technology; it just exists.
It just has radiation signs, stickers, and stuff on it. Yeah, I love that. And the
An unlicensed nuclear accelerator on our back.
In Back to the Future, they were originally going to end the story with you need plutonium to drive the time travel device. So they were going to have a nuclear explosion in the background at a testing site. And then they couldn't do it because the effect would cost them $1 million. So they switched it to a lightning bolt. And it's like, wow, that's a pretty big change from nuclear explosion to lightning bolt.
Wait, what are they gonna do? Like fucking blow up the town?
They were gonna harness the power of a nuclear weapons test. He was gonna go to Arizona or something like that with the right. And it's very that pretty much tells you where he'll value.
Nuclear reactors work. I don't think you can drive a car into like a nuclear explosion. All of a sudden, it powers the reactor.
Well, it really makes you think where Spielberg got the idea for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull for there to be a nuclear test with the refrigerator. That sounds like a Zemeckis reference. That sounds like he's referencing the shit that didn't happen in Back to the Future. But I don't, that's a conspiracy or whatever of mine. But
That's
guys,
just a theory.
you guys know
A
the
glib
channel.
theory.
You guys know the channel How This Should Have Ended, right? Where they do like little animated skits. They had one. This was like a long time ago.
How it should have ended, and it's just my life. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But no, they had one where it was Back to the Future meets Terminator. More specifically, Terminator 2. And they
Doc, we gotta get out of here. They're killing robots. Marty, you can't change the future, Marty.
But yeah, if you ever watch it, it's really fantastic. And you saying like the nuclear explosion thing reminded me, like they do that shot where Marty drives the DeLorean back to his own time, and just as like the lightning hits the courthouse, the whole building explodes in like a giant mushroom cloud in the skit.
There you go. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a cute video. It was like, I think it was like 9 or 7 years ago they did that one.
Once you get to a point when in the story and you're like, all right, I can't do this. It's physically impossible. Like I'm working on my Blade Runner thing. I've recorded an hour and a half of dialogue. I got an hour and a half more to go or something like that. But one of the things that I kept reading in the script that I thought was funny was that there's a Hampton Fancher script of Blade Runner, and his original story was meant to be a $9 million movie. Instead, it was a $28 million movie. The $28 million at that time was the same. Like, Blade Runner cost as much to make as Temple of Doom and Empire Strikes Back. And I don't know if you got the value out of it. But even if you didn't get the value out of that money for that story, they still didn't have the ability to shoot half the things that they wanted to shoot. And that I found that really interesting. Like, how do you adapt your own script to reality when you're like, all right, I have my idea. I want it to be like this. And then when you get to shooting, it's like, I can't do that. I have to come up with something that's going to be a compromise. A lot of this stuff is compromise. And I think that it's pretty awesome that somebody can come up with a creative way when faced with a problem like $1 million nuclear explosion to switch over to something like a lightning bolt, and people are okay with that. Because when you're not playing off of hard reality and science fiction and whatever explanation that you have for the audience, then you have to play off of thematics and aesthetics and that kind of thing. So when I have the lightning bolt hit the clock tower, well, now we have a time motif that can be used for everything. Now it's a sign of the time changing and stuff. And I remember my dad even had a conversation with Bob Z at a certain point, and he asked him, he's like, what's the deal with the photographs? Like, how does that make any sense? And I'm pretty sure that the response was, yeah, it's movie magic, man. That's movie magic. It's all about getting the sublimation into the audience by, it's like a magic trick. If a magician cannot mislead somebody, then they're not going to be able to do sleight of hand. You have to be able to know what the audience is looking for or looking at, and then lead the eye away to avoid the thing that you can't do. Most special effects is just hiding what you can't do. Like, how do we cover this up? Well, how many if go back and I probably literally
all special effects really you shouldn't be able to see, and that's the point of them. And if they're done well, you don't notice. You don't notice that the rain is often a post effect, even if you have like a rain setup, because it doesn't really properly show up on the lens of the camera. You actually put that effect on, like, in front of it as a post thing.
They shouldn't notice the effect that you're putting there, but you're putting the effect there because you need something that you can't have. And so it's like a chain of, I can't do something. I cannot control the rain, so I need to order a rain bar from the special effects thing. I need to pay for that. Right? Or if we're not going to do that, let's do this Orson Welles style and get a bunch of people to just,
piss on each other.
No, get a bunch of hoses and literally plug them into your neighbor's whatever, you know what I mean? And then just spray water onto a car.
Plug the hoses into your neighbor? Oh, God.
Plug it. What kind of neighbor?
That sounds painful.
It's just water weight. Plug them in. No.
Imagine like the neighbor comes out and he's like, you boys filming that film again?
Oh,
like, yes, we need to borrow your water.
Or you could be like my neighbor and call the cops on me when I'm shooting a video 10 years ago. But I was trying to get to a point, and I think I lost it. That was like
you
special
lost
effects.
the point? Oh my God!
Oh, I always do. Special effects are meant to be invisible, but then also they're meant to be there to mislead you from other errors in production. So what I was saying was go back to any period film like in the 50s or whatever, where they're on a street, and you can probably see they parked a truck in the background. They probably parked a semi or something, because they're trying to block off the edge of the street that they actually own. They're trying to close the shot. They're always trying to close off shots so that the only thing that you are fully contained within the frame of the environment. But just out of frame, there's a camera dude eating donuts or something, or there's a security guard, or they moved the carts out of the way because they don't want you to see in the shot. But the point is that they have to conform all of the stuff that they have into a frame that they can use. So there's usually obfuscation of what's actually there. Like with Blade Runner, why shoot at night? Well, because they're on a backlot. Why are they on a backlot? Well, because it's too expensive to build this set. So now they're on a backlot in Burbank, California, where there are rolling hills in the background. That means we have to hide those hills. Well, we don't have CGI replacements at this time. So now we have to shoot it at night. Well, night isn't good enough. We'll make everything wet. Okay, that adds reflections. Not good enough. Make everything smoky to add depth. Okay, but that's still not good enough. We need actors. So we get a bunch of extras, and they all have to be in costumes. You're filling this empty space that otherwise is just a metropolitan New York City backdrop. All of these aesthetics are there to add on to this container that you have, to give the idea that we're actually in this place. And things have to be moving, and things have to be introduced so that you don't get bored or think that it's empty, kind of like in music. Like the rule of thumb in dance music or in EDM or any of these things is every 8 bars you want to change something, because the mind will get bored of something. So you either change the drum pattern or add in a hi-hat, or you add in a different instrument, or you change the melody or something like that. And that's movie making too. So when it comes to special effects, you really want to use as little as possible. You want them to be as invisible as possible, but they're also the sleight of hand to take away from the fact that something is wrong. And there's always something wrong, because you're never going to get exactly what you want. It's a collaborative effort. So that's my treatise on special effects. Make it as real as possible in camera, and then when you see that there are holes in it, then you can add stuff in post-production to help patch that. And by the end of it, hopefully you'll have a coherent composite shot.
To establish where Lister was standing outside Starbug. 2 hours later, it was dumped into a studio skip. Talking of which, that's where
they
we
just
found much
dumped
of
the
it.
thing after they didn't need it anymore.
Yeah, because you can't store it. Most things get thrown out, or they get purchased, or they get donated to places. You can't, what are you going to do? Save all this equipment? It's a bunch of junk.
Yeah.
The sad thing is that they throw out sets that may be useful later, which is why I was mentioning earlier. It's really funny
I was thinking with
don't.
the leg. It's like, well, what if they want to do another shot where they need this leg in frame?
Well, where are you going to store all this stuff?
Don't know, really.
The way that the studio system works is that they rent out spaces. So if you're Paramount or you're something like that, and you're saying, okay, you can use our stages, you can use this set of offices, but after the date, you have to get out like a hotel, because we got new tenants that are coming in. So you have all these extra shits that are just going to be lying around, unless there's a greater deal. I remember my dad telling me a story about how instead of using a studio system, they built out a studio out of a warehouse, and they rigged it. They got all the professional guys to come in. And the reason they did that was because they were going to reuse sets season after season. And so he was telling me that he physically saved $200,000 by not having to rebuild a set, by having it in storage. And I saw what the storage is. It's like you can take apart all the walls and then, put onto pallets all of the different production design and set dressing stuff that you need. Each department, though, has to be in charge of different things. So you might not have certain pieces of set dressing. You might not have costumes in your, in your storage thing. An example is like in Back to the Future 2, they were going to go back to the dance, but they had already sold Leia Thompson's dresses. It was only serendipitous that she had the original one. Otherwise, they would have to recreate it. There's a lot of waste that goes on in this, but it's not necessarily waste. It's just the most efficient, expedient thing to do, because somebody's on the hook for material and money. If we just saved every set, there'd be just fucking tons of sets out. You'd have to have a whole backlot just full of sets. Now, that might be interesting. It might actually be a good idea to recycle stuff, but when you recycle stuff, people notice. After a certain amount of time, you can't really do the same thing over and over again. How many times in a Star Trek thing have you seen Planet Hell?
With Star Trek, for instance, it was actually pretty common for a lot of things to be recycled. Like a lot of bridge sets were just kept like the basic layout was the same, but they just kind of put shit onto it. Like I believe the Battle Bridge is a repurposed from one of the like original series films.
But it looks like junk. That's the problem that I have. When you watch Star Trek 6 back again and you see that they're sitting in the 10-4, they're sitting in the conference room, or they're sitting in what's supposed to be I remember the head of the Federation in Star Trek 6 is sitting inside one of the Enterprise's officers' rooms or whatever. And you're like, "Oh, that's supposed to be on a planet." Like, but I'm supposed to be ignoring that because they added a couple of old worldy tables into the room and painted everything gray. Like, that doesn't work. I can clearly tell where we are, you know what I mean? And that's one of the things. And then the other thing is that, like, them redesigning everything for Star Trek 1 set a bad precedent for the rest of the way that the thing was going to look. So I think it's interesting that you have something that's going to be iconic, but you don't know it's going to be iconic. So what do you do? You know, are you going to stick with what you already have? Or repurpose it, which is the budget thing to do, which is why they did it, or you can go and rebuild stuff, or you can save it, but you don't know. So you're just holding on and paying for storage prices for something that you don't know is going to be successful, and that's the issue. If there was a circumstance where they knew that they were going to reuse something and go back to it, then it makes sense to save stuff. But then what happens if you pay different people? What happens if you change the production designer? Like, again, Back to the Future, 1 different production designer from 2, but they had to do the same things. So it's, you know, whose warehouse is that stuff lying in? That's the material problem is a problem. And that actually, by the way, is a point for digital. Because if it's just a bunch of polygons and stuff, we can store it into a computer and put it away, put it on magnetic tape, even if we don't want the decay or whatever. But you know what I mean. Like, you can you can mothball something in digital very easily. With physical, it's not as much. And these are also companies that are also, they have to archive their film content as well as all of the other media content that's related to it. So all these costs start adding up. It makes sense why they would sell off props or why they would say, you know, get rid of stuff. And people would just save it if they liked it. I think that's all I got to say on the matter.
Right.
Set dressing. Ridley Scott had directed a science fiction themed commercial in Shepperton.
Oh, by the way,
weeks
there was
before
something
we
in chat that
detailed
I wanted to respond to. Babylon 5 Season 1 was another thing that my dad was doing, and he told me that every episode of Babylon 5 was half the budget of Deep Space Nine. So, I thought they did a pretty creative job. But a lot of that is just like identifying things that look future-y and putting them in there. Like, oh, we have this plastic tub. Let's buy a bunch of them and glue them to the walls. Or McDonald's boxes, like what James Cameron used to do. Just get a bunch of metal grating, underlight it, and then put it into a ship that has like angled walls that have little cardboard embellishments and a couple of electrical tubes or whatever, and you're golden. Make sure that there's a red light that swirls around like something bad is happening, and pump it full of smoke. Now you got a James Cameron ship.
But what if you want to go to blue alert? Does that mean you have to change the bulb?
Blue alert! Everybody enjoy yourself. Get a drinks. Hope you got your snacks. Take a shower.
Said. Enough said. The same episode, Back to Reality, used this phone, previously built for the movie Hardware, as a background prop in the scene where the team's true identities are revealed, including the famous Dwayne Dibley's first appearance.
Dwayne Deadly.
Blue Midget's interior for Series 8 was dressed with kitchen drainage trays and plastic buckets.
Plastic buckets.
Oh my fuck, I can see that now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's literally just the fucking mopping buckets you get at Tesco with some foam piping. And oh fuck, they've used the top of the buckets. So these would have been on top. And that's when you like squeeze the mop into, and they just fucking put it in the wall itself.
Cut it out and make it grating, make it something else. Yeah. That's literally everything is like that. And like all of these sci-fi shows and movies that are kind of not even lower budget, but just like,
okay,
hey,
let's go to Tesco's.
What is this? Does this look recognizable? I don't think the audience will recognize this. What is it? Oh, it's a trailer hitch. Just put it on the wall sideways. Put it upside down. Flip it upside down, glue it to another thing, and paint it something else, and we're good to go. Add some LED lights, fiber optics. Let's go. Gentlemen, we are flying a cardboard spaceship.
Main structures are normally fabricated in wood, painted, then some edges are picked out in silver to simulate the wear and tear of metal.
Yeah, just scratched up.
The Time Wand was rigged to move up and down by employing syringes and rubber tube, which were very effective, but eventually not used. The original scutters, to my knowledge, had been engineered from scratch, but on Series 8 there wasn't the time, or more importantly, the money available, so the chassis were built using radio-controlled toy cars, and the neck movement was achieved with rechargeable electric screwdrivers. The landing bay was where the opening scene and also Cat's dance sequence took place.
That's probably
Steve
one of the
Begg,
best
who
sets on
directed the
Red
Star-
Dwarf. The landing bay is a good set.
Steve Begg, who directed the Starbug crash, produced one concept drawing, and we built to that. The set was constructed in wood and clad and detailed in plastic. The actors had been shot on location next to large power units, so we had to match them in miniature.
Yes!
Picture
Hell
two
yeah,
is
brother.
the grabber, as we called it. It was put together by Steve Howarth. Originally, it was to be unmanned, but we later decided a figure would help to establish the scale and size of the bay.
And you see how
A
everything
rotating
has to be
light
like
and vibro-
extra. It's extra detailed when it comes to like it's there's a little you like why is there so much smudging, or why is it, you know, it has to have the extra touch so that when you film it, it looks like it's actually real. You can't get that close. There's all these miniature rules that you have to play. You have to think about how focal length is going to work, and there's a calculation that you have to do to frame it and photograph it in a way that's going to make it look like it's to scale. You can't just go back and watch Star Trek 1 and watch the scene where fucking Scotty takes Kirk over to the ship because the transporters aren't working, and it has all of the errors. Like before they learned anything, like compositing errors, complexity errors, detail errors, fucking 2D cutouts. It's awful. And then you look at something that has like high detail, that's in miniature, like I don't know, X-Men 2, and it's like, wow, that's miniature. I didn't even think that was miniature. Like the generator scene or the dam scene. The dam busting scene in X-Men 2 is a great example of what miniatures are capable of. But yeah, extra high. If you're gonna make a miniature, make sure you have super high detail, and then make sure that the way that you photograph it is gonna be in scale with what you're presenting. You want to pick your lenses based on what you think the scale compensate for the scale with your lenses, is what I'm saying.
Also added. There were 3 Starbug heads vacuum formed by Chris Trice. One was Hero, one was backup for this, and the other was cut up as wreckage. When it crashed through the containers in Bay, it was handomatically launched.
By the way,
in other
pause
words,
really quick.
Steve Begg threw it.
The other thing is that what miniatures are able to do is they're able, like, building that landing bay would probably be a really big set. But as we can see based on this scale miniature, it's not big. It doesn't have to be. So that's another advantage. And I think that it'd be very interesting to build miniature sets and then translate them into virtual stages. I'd love to see how that would look. You build a physical miniature at, I don't know, 1/6 scale or whatever it is. And then you place your actors in it, and I wonder if it would look awful or if it would look even remotely usable. But I've never seen anybody try and do that before. You know, with all of with the way that you can photograph an environment, use photogrammetry or 3D camera work and that kind of thing, and have the motion control and capture be able to adjust the background. I think it'd be very interesting to design small scale physical sets and then translate them into big real ones. I don't know how that would look though. I want to see that.
I think it's been done before. I've seen miniature sets, prototypes before they've actually been turned into like an actual full scale set, which they've used on location.
No, but I mean, like, the virtual staging technology is like the stuff that they use on Mandalorian, where it's not actually there.
I see what you mean.
I would love
now,
to see that a real-time composite based on a miniature that was made. So you have
So, yeah, like the only things which you've got though is like a HDRI map, which is like the spherical map which you get with like when you're dealing in 3D. But the problem with that is that the fact that it is a 2D shot. In order to have that live compositing, you would need like a motion controlled camera on
yes,
that
but they have that
small
that's
set.
that's a thing now. You know
No,
what I
but
mean?
usually,
You can go-
like the
there's a
cameras which are
package.
filming this are like a camera, normal sized, and it's placed off of the actual set itself. Right,
Right,
like,
but-
you need something which was small enough to scale, like actually there, and it would need to be in like 4K quality.
You could still do that.
You
You could still do that. It's not that hard. It's totally possible. It's just if the detail is good enough on miniature. That's the question. If a miniature can replicate a physical space, then the idea of doing that might be better than CGI if you're looking at realism. But I'm not sure if that's true because not everything scales. For example, sand is hard to scale. Fire is hard to scale. Water is hard to scale. But also water is hard to replicate in CGI. You can use Nuke for things, you can use whatever these different programs are, but they don't look real. So what special effects is when, like I was saying earlier, when you run out of real and you have to come up with something fake, how far into fake do you want to go? I really enjoy miniatures because there's a tactile quality to it. You just can't shrink yourself into it. But if you have CGI, you can shrink your characters into it. And if you can immerse your characters into a half constructed version of that in a smaller stage, then you can create as many different stages as you want. That's their goal, is that they want to have infinite space in a small space.
All right, Andrew Clark for $2. Check out event Horizon Ship Construction. I'll put it on the list then.
All I
Don't even
remember
know
is,
anything about Event Horizon.
Lawrence Fishburne, yeah.
In other words, Steve begged through it. We use rubber dust in the explosions as it gives
The
nice
ship looks like a
fireballs.
backpack.
Also, after each take,
If you look at the front of the fucking Event Horizon ship, it looks like a backpack that someone.
Oh, I thought you were talking about something in shot.
we
No.
use rubber dust in the explosions as it gives nice fireballs. Also, after each take, you just hoover up the burnt powder residue and go again. The last model I built on Red Dwarf was the escape pod. Designer Mel Bibby said no money was left in the budget, so I agreed on a good bottle of red wine instead. The craft had to appear complete.
You made
and then
it for a
we see-
bottle of red wine.
Yeah, they should call the show Red Wine. That's a
partially
good
devoured
looking
by a
ship thing. I like it.
It's an escape pod.
Very,
metal-eating
very
virus.
2001.
I designed it as a three-sided shape and worked one face with wreckage, superglue, and silver paint. Then on film, we dissolved between our hero and damaged parts to achieve the effect. After Dwarf finished, I realised I'd never worked on any of the main craft. That is, until I was contacted by a TV quiz show and asked to make one of their major prizes. So I did finally get to build a Starbug.
Starbug. It really is a Starbug.
I think that's the point of the design.
Starbuck.
Bug. It's not supposed to be like it's supposed to be a shit ship essentially, and that's what Red Dwarf in itself is to design it. It was supposed to be like the built for the lowest price.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it, but the people that are thrust into that situation do a pretty good job, I would say.
Well, I meant like in universe, it's supposed to be like someone
okay,
like
gotcha.
the lowest bid. It's like it's not like they've gone above and beyond to like the spared no expense. It's like, okay, so we'll cut the money here and we'll just okay, we don't need showers. They can go downstairs for the showers.
I want a spaceship that looks like Homer's design when you remember the episode where he meets his brother, and his brother's like
I
works
remember
at a
that
car
one.
company, and he
The
designs just like
Homer.
the Homer. Yeah, I want a Homer spacecraft. Dude, I'm gonna get an artist, I'm gonna be like, all right, I want to commission a spaceship design. And they're like, do you have any ideas? And I'm just gonna send them the Homer, and I'm not gonna give them any notes. I'm just gonna just make this into a ship, but don't make it look like this. Let's
Yeah,
just
make
be a dick
this,
to your artists.
but don't.
I want you to make I want you to make a spaceship that looks like a baseball hat that nobody's wearing. What do you mean by that? Shut up. Just do it. I don't want to tell you.
There was a skit on Robot Chicken with Star Wars where what was the Dengar the assassin, and his spaceship is literally a flying toilet.
Well, in
It's 'cause he's got toilet paper on his head.
in Star Wars
Yeah.
Resistance, one of the ships just looks like a GT, a Ford GT or whatever, with wings on it. I'm like, ugh, that's the laziest. Just adding wings to some shit. You know what I mean? That would actually be pretty funny if everything was just wings added to shit. If it's a terrible sci-fi camp story and everything was just like, what is that? Oh,
Like
it's
the shitty cartoon Resistance.
yeah, the shitty cartoon. Their ship design is god awful, and it's like all just based on cars, F1 cars, cars, truck cars, motor vehicle cars with wings.
If I can look up some of these ships, because I've barely seen any Resistance. I've seen part of the first episode before I gave up, and I've seen another episode in it, and that's it.
Just look up Ford GT Star Wars.
So this is like I guess a live action idea of how the design would look.
That's just a rip off of the Z95 idea or whatever. It's like, hey, let's take an X-wing and
An
slightly change
X-wing,
it.
but give it one wing.
It's not an X-wing though. It's a different kind of X-wing. No, but look up GT. No, it's right below you. The one to the bottom left.
This one.
Yeah, like, just take the wings off. It's a car.
Holy shit! It is.
It's just a fucking car.
That
It looks like
the
a
car-
really.
that looks like the car from Speed Racer.
Look up Ford GT and you'll see it's even the same colors. It's the Gulf racing
One
team,
sec.
the Gulf Fuel racing team colors.
I think for that design, I think they were trying to go for like the A-wing, but
I by the way, Psych Titan says Cybertruck with wings. That sounds fucking hilarious. Somebody now, please, somebody get an artist to
that
draw a
would be-
Cybertruck as a ship. That would be fucking hilarious.
That would be the easiest thing to 3D model because it's like 4 like polygons for the entire thing.
It's a cyber ship. It's part of SpaceX.
Wait,
what
what?
the hell is that?
So this is supposed to be, I guess, a pirate ship, and they have literally fucking put sails on the damn thing.
Yeah, it's a pirate ship, except
Oh
it's
my
like you're a
God.
kid again, and you have to hold your tongue, so it's really a pile of shit.
Oh god, why does it have sails
Sound
though?
like you said pile of shit, Glib.
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember that from like when you were in grade school?
Why does
where
it
you
have sails?
hold your tongue with your thumb and your index finger and say pirate ship.
I'm not letting go of this. Why does it have sails? Why does this thing have sails? It's annoying me.
Well, do you remember Attack of the Clones? They had the sail ship, and it was like the solar barge or whatever. I thought that was a cool idea.
Well, but that's like a solar sail. That has a function in it, how it moves. But this is just having metal sails.
It looks like a Winnebago with wings. Yeah, it's there. Welcome to Spaceballs.
Hey, that was a great looking ship. How dare you?
Yeah, I liked it. I like that movie a lot.
With the bumper sticker, I
Zeus.
love Uranus.
In space.
Spaceballs
Looks
2,
like something
search
out of-
for more money.
Like a cheap Transformers
Eagle 5 is
cartoon.
dope. Why does the Eagle 5 have better looking aesthetics than half of these ships?
Probably because they put some effort in or they care. What the fuck? So they've
Oh my
taken...
God, somebody posted a thing where they compared the Spaceballs Winnebago to the Mandalorian ship. I'm like, ship design can only be so many things, and you need cargo, and so eventually everything just becomes a square tube, you know?
But,
Oh,
like,
that reminds me. Someone actually, I posted this like in the morning nonsense like a while ago. Someone actually built the Mandalorian ship like in Russia.
Just like as like an outback, like an outhouse or something.
Well, no. They built it, and I think it's like a kind of like a tourist attraction type thing. Like someone was like, "Hey, I can get the material. I can build this thing."
Also pointing out, like I think this is the ship which is used by the TIE fighter pilot, and I just know watching that show that he's going to be like suspected of being the traitor, but it's actually going to end up being someone else. It's like, no, I trusted you, and this guy's actually supposed to be cool.
I want more Civil War era.
I can see the bomber. I can see the bomber from Last Jedi in the upper right-hand corner there.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't even see this.
To the right. Yeah, there you go.
Well, this
you
is the
guys-
same
there it is.
thing. It's just
Well, yeah,
okay.
a close shot.
It's garbage. Garbage.
Yeah, it's a
Fucking
spaceship
garbage.
I think
that
this
goes
is,
5 miles per hour. Okay.
I'm trying to remember fuck his name now. It was E.C. Henry. This is his design of like what a Resistance Y-wing would look like.
Just fucking use a regular Y-wing. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
That looks good. But like, just who gives a shit? I don't understand why you
I
would
guess
bring
because
back
there'd
old
be,
ships,
like,
but
an
not all of
advanced-
them.
I guess there'd be advancements from like over 30 years, so like they would have new versions of these things.
But
Like,
it's
they
not an
wouldn't still-
advancement.
Hmm?
But it's not an advancement. None of the things that are presented in the later sequels are actually advancements on anything. They're not better at anything. So it's bullshit.
It's just like really smart minor cosmetic changes.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's
Shiny.
like it's like if I took a fucking, I don't know, like a car from 1990, right? And I was like, yeah, dude, it's like I'm upgraded this fucking Ford Probe, and now it's super futuristic. Like, what did you do? Oh, I put a Corvette engine in it. Like, that doesn't make it a better car. It just means you have a
Hey,
Corvette engine in it now. But they didn't even do
Shiny.
that.
What is the ship next to the TIE fighter, whatever the hell that thing is, to the right? The second picture. There you go. What is that from?
I think that's another Resistance redesign.
Okay. It looked
So-
like an actual like spaceship that someone made. Like that looks like it's real.
Oh no, no,
not
no!
Like,
This
not
was in
animated.
It's a Resistance ship that was in Rise of Skywalker, and this is one
Oh.
of the.
Well, that's
like,
why
the test-
I didn't recognize it. I never saw that movie.
Fairy Joker posted.
Well, it was like a show from Resistance. Like, sorry, the ship
Right.
from the Resistance show
Right.
that's in the
I
Rise of
get that.
Skywalker. But anyway, this is. I don't know. I'm kind of partial to this. I like what's going on here with the cockpit and like the wings
Looks like a
raised.
fighter jet. This is a dumb ship though. These are all dumb ships, and I would never fly them.
I think
why-
if I had a concept artist which came back to me with this, I would say, okay, maybe we rework the engines there.
I'd be
And
like,
I'd-
okay, this is tremendous, but you're fired. You're fired, okay?
Fuck off. You're fired. Get out of here.
Listen, get your shit and get out.
You'll get your
You want
shit when
you
you
want me to
fix
serve this
bundle.
half-baked piece of shit knockoff X-wing to my customers? This is
All of these
okay
are
with
just-
you?
A lot of these are just kind of blurring together now. They're just like
Yeah.
colorful colored, like knockoff X-wings.
Okay, design an X-wing, but make it different. I want it different.
Is that just the same ship as before, but it's different colors?
It's
Yeah, I think
just
it's been
slightly
reskinned.
different. It's that. What is that rule? The
Oh.
10% difference thing, where it's just the exact same thing but just slightly different.
Yeah,
Just
it's
make
Yeah,
it
they,
just
a
they are
different
starting
enough.
to blend together at this point.
Just make it different enough so that we could sell it as a separate toy. But don't make it too different that people don't think it's Star Wars. I'm a hack. Yay.
Yeah, it's even more like noticeable as a car from this
Oh
angle.
yeah, that is very noticeable.
Dumb.
I don't know like why it raises up so much here. Like it just ends up looking
That's
fat.
that's the color scheme from the Ford GT. Oh God, I
Yeah, I was
recognize that.
saying, that's the Ford GT. Look up the Ford
Yeah.
GT Golf, Shiny.
Yeah, I've
it up.
actually sat in one of those cars, Glib.
Those are badass, man. I want to drive one.
Oh God, Glib, it was horrible. Like the top of the car comes up to my no, the top of the car came up to my waist. I'm 5
I'll
foot
be honest.
11. I'm 5'11". Yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
The top of that car comes up to my waist. I had to like fall down to get into the car. I get in there and my head is pressed against the roof of the ceiling. My knees are banging against the steering wheel, and I'm like, this thing costs $600,000. Are you?
Is
are you
that the old
fucking
one?
Kidding me?
The original one? The
Not. I don't know if it was the original one,
which
but
one
it
are you
was
talking
that
about?
one. It was that one right there, the one that's on screen. It was the same color and everything. Yeah, it was the same color and everything.
Okay, good.
Ugly ass color. And when I had to get out of it, I had to crawl out on my hands and knees to get out of it because I was just like one of the janitors, and they're like, "Hey, you want to sit in it?" And I'm like, "Sure." And
you want to sit in it? Yeah, not for long, for a minute.
I'm like, yelling, "How the fuck do I get out of this thing?" And I had to crawl out on my hands and knees because I was afraid to like touch anything, because it's like a couple $100,000 for that car. So I was worried I was going to break something getting out of it. So I had to crawl out on my hands and knees, and I'm like, oh my god, my back.
Well, this is just a legendary vehicle. I mean, it's the whole point is to defeat.
Legendary piece of shit.
Well, the whole point is just to defeat Ferrari in a race. So it's like, of course, it's not comfortable whatsoever. It only looks cool because it's designed to race, and
it had flashbacks.
Can I
saw
very much quickly, like,
this is where
cars.
McLaren came from. This is where the Le Mans stuff came from. It's pretty legendary, but that's probably the reason why they put it in there. Like, hey, we know George likes racing, but the color scheme is a fucking corporate one. That's why it's funny. It's the Gulf oil colors. That's why you thought it was ugly.
Yeah. I never liked that color scheme, by the way, too. That aquamarine blue and the bright orange. It's like, ugh. It's
very 70s.
It's like
I prefer my Ford cars to be like. What were you guys
thinking with that?
I like the Ford Shelby look, which is the blue with the white stripes or the white with the blue stripes. That's that's Ford. That's like how Ferraris, if it's anything other than red, it's like get the fuck out of here.
That one servant of Satania, yeah, it's catered towards people who need to compensate. Well, clearly, it wasn't meant for me. Clearly,
it's meant for racing.
Yes,
it's meant for just going fast. Yeah, but I don't know about the new GT. Their new supercar is probably a lot better because it's designed for selling. It probably is.
I think that's it in the top. The blue one. No, to the left, Shiny.
A fucking 7-liter V8 is so fucking fast.
Yeah, I think that's the new one. If I remember correctly, I think that's the new
blue and black.
Oh, that's
I like blue and black.
That's a Porsche Carrera.
Oh, is it? Oh, I don't know.
Right there. It says
I can barely read that. I'm not zoomed in.
Look up Ford GT 2020.
I'm not a car. This is not a car show. We're not Top Gear.
Ford GT supercar.
I've actually
Ford.com/performance/GT. The most powerful Ford GT ever. See the Ford GT MK2.
It's the GT
Star Wars Resistance.
ZY Lancia Carrera Corvette.
The new 700 horsepower 3.5-liter GTX 6800 GeForce GPU.
And the name's
Ford
it looks
NVIDIA.
like, yeah, I'm looking at it, Glib. It looks like a doorstop with wheels.
Listen, it's got a 5-way adjustable, race-derived Multimatic DSSV damper, complete with high-speed blow-off, spray nozzles with atomizers, eliminating heat soak, enabling longer and hotter runs on the track. It's even got high-capacity GT-style, outboard-mounted, roof scoop, air cooler systems for gearbox, oil, and clutch!
Thank you for the guy who's wearing headphones. Thank you for that.
Well, I was wearing headphones. It didn't hurt my ears. I was just more.
Well, I have the volume cranked on mine. Psych Titan. This is bottom gear. No, this is no Psych Titan. This is grinding gears.
This is power gear.
Yeah, we're grinding the gears here.
Yeah, no, I'm having fun. This has been pretty hilarious. We talked about a bunch of random shit.
Mm-hmm.
Just quickly talk about like designs. Still, one thing which I suppose I kind of just want to vent on a little bit.
Oh wait, is like how. By the way, after that, I want to know, Shiny, what your favorite designs are. But yeah, vent about this pizza slice.
It's so flat.
Oh, it looks fake. The Destroyer from Last Jedi.
Yeah, it looks like a pizza slice that has a dick.
It does look absolutely shit. So I think I can pull up E.C. Henry's redesign of it. Which
would be some kind of pizza destroyer.
If I can pull up his redesign.
Yeah, more like the plot destroyer.
It's not like nice looking at all. It's not even cool. And like, what is it with like the bridge that's really long?
Psych Titan again. It's half baked. More like it's overbaked.
I don't even think it's half baked. Or like overbaked.
It's burnt.
It's like
they've burnt.
They've underbaked the like the actual basic design, like what you come up in Sketch, like they have just drawn a fucking like pizza slice, and then they've overbaked that. Like they've underbaked something, then they've overbaked it on top of it.
Yeah.
I wanted just to show some of this because it is. Wait, is this like the? Fuck, this is redesigning it live. That's the wrong one. Need to find the overview.
Oh, he's
Fuck,
okay. So he's redesigning it. Yeah, it would be funny if he made a video and he's like, "I'm redesigning the Star," and then by the end of it, he just showed the Star Destroyer from the original trilogy. That'd be hilarious.
Custom TIE Fighter. Here it is.
Oh man, the First Order Dreadnought. This is an ugly ship. I was really surprised when I saw it. Like, really? Now we've seen it.
Oh, it just makes me want to just
understand.
makes me want Star Wars to just burn in a ditch somewhere. I'm so sick of Star Wars and all these franchises have just given people the ability to latch on to George's creativity.
Kill Star Wars. Kill it if you have to.
Let the past die. Kill Ryan Johnson if you have to in Minecraft.
Maybe why they wanted the flat surface, and maybe this.
I love how he does does like a drifting move with his X-wing. That pissed me off so much when I was watching it. He did a handbrake turn.
Thing is, I'm fine with like the handbrake turn.
No, why?
No. Hear me out.
No.
Hear me out.
No.
Hear me out.
No.
I'm fine with like the handbrake turn if it's like if there's a reason why he would want to do it. Like say if he's going around a tight corner. But he's not even going around a tight corner. He's just doing it for no fucking reason.
Maybe why they wanted the flat surface.
Like there's no reason why he's doing it. He's just flipping for no reason.
Yeah.
Even BB-8's like, what the fuck?
Dude, it's like, you don't think those G's would fucking boil it? Like, his brain would be like, he'd black out at that fucking thing. What are you talking about? Have you ever seen a jet fighter turn that fast? No? Why? Think about why. Especially in a zero gravity environment. Like, get the fuck out of here.
We aren't looking at this from like a uber realistic, uber scientific.
Against the
because I very much doubt that G's are a thing in Star Wars. Like
they should be. They should be. Why not?
Well, the plot certainly isn't a real thing in Star Wars nowadays.
Wouldn't it make more sense that ships would have to fly certain paths? You can't just do whatever you want. When did Star Wars become a cartoon? That's my biggest part. This movie turns Star Wars into cartoon logic. Remember how BB-8 fixes this scene where he just smashes his head into the thing?
His head into it. That's something.
Dumb.
Yeah, I don't.
Handbrake turn, smash head, fire on the base. That's dumb. It's for retards. This movie is for idiots, and people that like it are also stunted.
Specifically calls for an ugly ship, but without any of that context. All we're left with is this objectively ugly brutalist pizza slice design. And
I love the idea of a brutalist pizza slice. Brutalist Pizza is going to be my pizza company, and you're going to walk in and it's just going to be all concrete walls and a picture of Stalin on it, and it's going to just have the pizza. Order up! There's just going to be like some Russian guy wearing a fucking ushanka making pizzas with his chest hair, Russian chest hair coming out of his tank top. You want to order the pizza?
Redesigned this ship live, just kind of by adding some stuff and rearranging some stuff. And in that stream, I said I might try to do this in 3D, and
it looks like shit to me. I'm sorry.
No. It gets garbage. It changes.
And some lucky 700 of you got a sneak peek at the topic this week, but here it is.
Now it's got a ramp that you can jump a motorcycle off.
Poly. It's not the highest detail 3D model I've ever made, but it
does look better.
Across.
It does. He's
100% right. He did.
If you look real closely, you can see Vin Diesel driving his Charger up the ramp.
Why is this only in like 360p? EC Henry, what the fuck?
You thought this was going to be a space battle?
No, we're gonna drive a truck off the roof with this shit.
It's about I did try to preserve a lot of the flatness of the original ship design, and in most cases I tried to preserve as much as possible from the original ship. So the flatness and the wide conning tower and the, generally.
Why would you have such a wide tower? It's got to be miles long. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Imagine being in that in that conning tower and like, hey, Steve!
Jedi. He does like The Last Jedi, so he does think it's a good film.
Oh, I fucking hate fanboys, dude. I hate them. They make everything harder.
They're
like
cops and they're bullshit and they're hard and they get everywhere.
They really do. They smell like shit too at conventions.
Shape isn't particularly affected. It's very harshly geometrical, which of course the original Star Destroyer is as well, but even more so this Dreadnought design. And I also keep the orbital autocannons. These are a little undetailed, but there they are. And I try to angle match the one that I made on the live stream. You can see down here I have a conning tower that is very much like
a penis for shooting the laser bullet.
Conning tower on the bottom of your ship. Okay.
This is why I fucking hate ship designs. Like, why would you pilot your ship from the top and then have a bottom section you can't see? And like, what is going on? It's just bridges on ships, giant triangle ships that have thousands of miles of distance so that they're giant targets in space. And what's the point of all of that? Nothing. Just to look like the Star Destroyer from the original, which was a good design because of its simplicity and because of its likeness to modern day ships, so that you could have a sort of something to compare it to.
That Dreadnought looks like the original Star Destroyer if you stomped on it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. If you stomped on it. And then it's all squished, and it's like, you are hurting my penis. I want to shoot laser. Why would you, by the way, why would you have one laser on the bottom and then nothing on the top? What if you need to shoot up?
I guess.
What if you need a battleship?
Bombardment.
There's all these broadsides. Like you look inside in the OT, there's this thing where they're like shooting from stuff inside the ship with what looks like anti-aircraft guns. And it's like, okay, well, why don't you have guns on the outside?
Wasn't it in the prequel series they had broadside cannons?
It was in the prequel series, but it was also in the OT. There's a shot where you can see them like when the ships are flying by in A New Hope, and then you see green lasers and stuff flying around and whatever, and they're rotating back and forth like anti-aircraft guns. It's like, why do these ships not have big guns on them to shoot each other? They just
imagine being on a spaceship and you're like, damn it, they're on the side. We don't have any guns on the side.
We only have these little tiny guns. We have to scramble fighters.
We have guns on the front, top, and bottom. We didn't think people would come from the side.
It's a Star Destroyer. It's a Star Destroyer that has no big gun on it. It's dumb. And then when they do put the big gun on it that looks like a penis, it's just fucking on the bottom so that it can shoot downwards in one shot. Like, not even think. It's too small. It's too small for a fight. We can't shoot this X-wing. It's too small for our guns. Like, well, then why do you have them on your ship, idiot? Like, and then the only big gun that you have can't shoot the ship right in front of you anyway. What are we doing here? Unless
it's not even like pose skilled. It's just that they're too fast.
It'd be cool if
they
it was
waited too long too. They waited too long to shoot him too.
It should be a pizza slice that breaks up into smaller pizza slices. Or maybe a disc ship. Maybe it's like a disc ship, and then all the slices of the pizza are individual Star Destroyers. So you fly around in saucer pizza. What? Full pizza mode.
That's like a Mel Brooks gag. Like it's like they're all like pizza slices, and they come together to form a giant disc.
Yeah, exactly.
My God, it's the
bunch of
deep
pizza
dish.
slices.
My God, it's the deep dish station.
It's like the the donut station from the prequel trilogy, but it's just a slice of pieces. Like, sir, we'll never be able to get past their slices. Yes, but if we take out the heads, if we cut it down the middle, then we can take it out.
Those sons of bitches got pineapple on it too.
Oh shit!
Right now, I'm just collecting some of the Halo ships because not Halo ships, they're just ships in general. I do.
Halo ships look good. I want to just say that the original Pillar of Autumn was a very, very good ship design. Just from a basic, like, realistic perspective, it totally makes sense that the Pillar of Autumn.
I kind of prefer like the smaller frigate, like the Forward Unto Dawn. That kind of I
like
class.
The name Forward Unto Dawn. I don't know about the ship though, but I just like the idea that these ships kind of look like big guns. That's always seemed like a cool idea. Not that I don't like that.
I mean,
that
that
the
does
Savannah
look
looks
like a
stupid.
big, giant space gun.
Yeah, it looks
just
like a big giant space gun, but there's like holes in it. Why would you design a ship like that? Is that the Mac gun on the front?
That's the Mac gun, yeah.
Okay.
This is just
That
the
looks like-
Halo Reach.
that looks like a
idea
giant-
of the Halo 2 one.
It looks like a giant Master Chief is gonna come up, pick up that gun, and start shooting it. Like it's got a handle at
I
the
like
bottom
it.
and everything.
I like the style of it. I think it's
I
cool.
kind of like it
If you
too.
design ships as big guns, they'll look good. But I like the Pillar of Autumn more because it just seems more cohesive. This has like extra shit on it on the sides and all that to make it look more cool.
So there's the Quinton.
No.
Yeah, I like it. I really like it.
No, it's a.
That's
it is
from Star Wars too, right?
No, that is a Star Destroyer mixed with the Millennium Falcon with the Corvette engines on the back of it.
Yeah, it is. Holy shit.
It's basically what I would do if I was going to describe this. It's the Corvette engines from, was it the Episode 1 ship? I can't remember what the fucking class is called. Then it's mixed with, on the underside, you can see here, that's a bit of the acclimator, and then from the top it's kind of like a bit like the Venator, and in there how it's shaped.
I just feel like you can't design new ships in Star Wars without Macquarie or Johnston unless they're and then they just become derivative. Like every other person that they go, what does Star Wars look like? Well, it looks like this ship and this ship and this ship. So I'm just gonna kind of make something in between, and then you get a billion different dumb TIE fighter designs when the first one was already dumb. Like the only other cool TIE fighter is the Interceptor. Other than that, get the fuck out of here. Stop designing ships that look exactly like that. It doesn't have to.
You're probably gonna ruin my dreams now when you like tell me the Normandy shit.
No, I'm not saying it's shit. It has a distinct style. It's just not my thing. I don't like slick. It's not the way that I look at it. But it's a good ship. It's fine. It looks.
I really like the engines themselves, especially like the profile it gives the ship. I like that the engine. It's something which is really underused in Mass Effect itself. It's used in Mass Effect 1. So like in the first Mass Effect game, when you're looking at the original Normandy, the engines are actually articulating. So there's like 4 engines at the back, there's 4 engines at the front, and this is what allows it to maneuver so nimbly. But in most of Mass Effect 2 and 3, these engines don't move at all. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't even rig them. So like they're just kind of statically posing there when they should be moving about, when the ship is twirling and doing all these kind of stuff. I like it. No one has any more input on this.
I'm sorry.
Right? Okay. The Venator. That's a terrible shot. Okay, here's the Venator.
Fairy Joker.
That looked much better on the profile than it did actually looking at it.
You love the Venator. It's just a fucking remake of the Star Destroyer again. How many times?
Yeah, but I really like the shape of it itself, and I like the big landing bay in the middle of it, like the big airstrip.
I mean, if you're a fan of Star Wars, then it's a good design of a ship, I guess.
I don't know why you need 2 coning towers, though.
I think it's mostly just look. I'll admit that doesn't make any sense.
Probably, but still, it's like.
Well, it's a clone ship. It's got to have 2.
I think if I remember correctly, in lore, like one is the actual bridge which controls the functions of the ship. The other one is like fighter control, so that they direct the fighters across the battlefield.
You got to show everybody the Bebop now that you've shown your favorite ship.
I'm looking closer at that design.
Why do you have share your shit? You know?
Can I actually screen
share? Hold on,
yes,
guys.
You can
guys.
How do you do that?
Did you not know that you couldn't?
No,
screen
I don't know
share
anything about this
time?
StreamYard. I use OBS like
there's
patrician.
I have a question.
Down at the bottom. Shh. Okay, there's a plus down at the bottom of the screen.
Shut the fuck up.
I'm sorry, bad boy. I need to explain this to Glib because he's a fucking idiot.
No, I get it. I see it. I see. You don't have to explain it to me. I just didn't know that you had access rights to do that.
All right, bad boy. Sorry, what did you say?
So with that
he was saying Black Lives Matter.
Anyway, with that ship design, the what was it called? The Venator. Sorry. The coning towers.
The United Colors of Venator.
Why do you have windows that look directly across at each other? Like on the coning tower, it's like why? Why do you need that? It's like you're looking directly across at each other. It's like hey Steve.
Maybe we need to wave at each other. I don't know if like things go down.
All right, let me.
Okay.
Let me
Glib, this is your ship.
I said a wiggle it a little bit. All you gotta do is just wiggle a bit. Wiggle.
You say you shared a file rather than actually sharing your screen. It's
just
like
showed everybody that.
rolling.
Oh god.
It's a bird.
I just wanted to see how the video file sharing would work. You still have to approve it.
Yeah.
You can't just play it. Yeah, okay.
No, well, you have control over pressing play, but I have control over if it shows up or not. Like, I can easily just remove it.
You got to do is just wiggle a bit. Wiggle a bit. I
I
said
can
a
also
wiggle it a
ban you
little
if
bit.
you want. This is gonna get us taken down. I have no idea if this music is actually copyrighted.
Okay, I'm good.
You okay there, Glib? You're fine now?
I said I was okay.
You got that out of your system?
I wonder what everybody that was just listening, like not watching, just sits in the background what they're thinking.
I don't know
Okay.
what people are thinking.
Wiggle a bit. Just wiggle a bit, dude.
Now, do you have a serious ship suggestion of like
No, I
what
was
you
just saying
like?
look up the Bebop from Cowboy Bebop because we've been going back and forth on it, and I think it's the most practical ship design I've ever seen. And
I don't like practical though. I like style. I like looks.
it can land on water.
Fancy.
It's got an engineering and docking bay for the smaller ships. It's got living quarters. It's got pretty much everything that you need and nothing that you don't. And that's the thing I like about it. It has a justified artificial gravity system, and I like that Cowboy Bebop takes that into account. Because a lot of ships, they just have quote unquote gravity plating, which sounds like radiation poisoning to me in some way. There's not really a good example of it. That's like a CGI design of it. I don't think that they add a bunch of extra wings and shit onto the swordfish and onto the Bebop that I don't think look very good necessarily. But it's the core design of it. That's the swordfish, and it's not really like a functional design at all. You wouldn't want to pilot a ship from the top in that little ball. It doesn't make any sense at all. But it looks cool as an anime thing.
Yeah, visually it looks great.
He shoots you with a big penis. But yeah, the Bebop is like what I would fly around in. I remember we were talking about that. Like if I had a personal ship, it would be Bebop
Question:
size,
why would you
like
want to
a
land in the
2
ocean
bedroom house.
rather than just landing?
Well, you don't
like
want to
on a
land at all,
surface?
really. I mean, but like,
Well, I mean,
like
if
the
you're
idea
going
that
to
it's a ship.
land, there's usually a reason why you land somewhere. So if you're going to land somewhere, why wouldn't you land where there's actual place where you can walk, or like if you need to pick up supplies? Why would you land in the water?
I mean, I guess it's a stylistic choice. It's like, why would you have a pontoon thing for your boat?
Oh, now look who's being practical, Mister. I like my ships to be stylized.
I don't like practical.
I don't like practical.
I want landing gear on my Star Destroyer.
Hey, I don't like practical. 5 seconds later, why does it have to land in the water?
Oh no, but Glib was like praising this thing as being practical. I was like, well, is it that practical?
None of your ships can land on water.
But do they need to?
Yeah,
In
if you
what
want to go fishing,
situation
what are you going to do?
Is it going to be required for you to land on water?
It's a boat and a ship, Shiny. It's
Why?
2 in 1.
Yes, you're praising this thing as being practical.
You're like, oh, I want a hot dog without the bun. That's more practical. Like, no, you want a bun for your hot dog, okay? You want to be able to have a ship
if they land,
that can
land on
fly
a
and
planet that's
land in water.
100% water?
Yeah, what if it's 100% water,
Why would they
Shiny?
need to go to a planet that's 100% water?
Because they want to go fishing. Because they're going to Camino to buy you, jerk.
if you really need to go fishing, what you do is you fucking just hover over the ocean and just cast into the
Because this annoying bitch needs to suntan, okay? So what's your favorite ship, bad boy?
I don't know. I'd have to go with the, we talked about it earlier, the Daedalus from Stargate, to be perfectly honest. I mean,
Yeah, I like the Daedalus.
yeah, I mean,
Can you
I
pull
like
that
it
up?
too.
Yeah, well,
we had it up earlier.
Now
to
that
pull
I
up
know
the
that I can
Prometheus
share
as
my
well?
screen, I'll do that more often, Shiny, so you don't have to do all that. I just thought that only person in charge of the stream could do that.
Yeah, the Daedalus here, and I do
Yeah.
like the design. I like it.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That seems very functional.
Mhm.
There has to be an element of
You've
functionality
got-
for it to be applicable.
You've got like missile silos here, which are used for like that use that a lot in the show. They've got like anti-aircraft railguns across here.
Yep, rail guns. Then they had the Asgard beam weapons and the
The
later,
Asgard beam weapon,
later show.
like it generates somewhere from like
The
here-ish.
bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, but we
Like the
don't
bottom
actually
and the
see
front.
where it comes. There's no kind of weapon or projector or dish which the
Yeah.
Asgard beam actually physically comes out of. It just magically appears out from under it.
Yeah.
No,
you never
it
really
is cool,
see it.
though.
You just,
I
you
like
just
the
know
sound.
it's there.
I like the as it goes, the like, beam goes through space.
You know what I really
I like the.
Yeah, I was just gonna say in Mass Effect. That just reminded me. I love when you making that sound. I love the system, the relay system they have, where it just shoots you like a catapult.
Mhm.
That's genius. Just like with Bebop, I love that because like you really think a ship could just go light speed and have enough fuel to go and do all these things? Like it doesn't really make sense.
Well, Mass Effect still has like FTL. It's just FTL is only good enough to get you between like this star and the next. It's not good enough to go between like star clusters, which is what the relays are actually used for, like in intergalactic transit.
Yeah.
I always
Space is
laughed.
big.
I always laughed in Mass Effect 3 whenever you had to get away from a Reaper, you were in the star system, you just like drove like to the edge of the map
of the system
to get away.
and then you just, even though
Wait
you're
a second,
technically
then
going
fly
the
back.
same speed. Actually, no, wait, you going sublight in the system, and then I suppose you're going like FTL. Wouldn't you go in FTL like through the system as well?
Somewhere right now, Smud's ears are burning. It's like, what?
Yeah, I assume that they were going like FTL in the system. No, they weren't. Sorry, during those missions. So I don't know why you wouldn't be able to go in FTL in the system. I was actually playing Mass Effect 3 more recently. Even though, well, we were just on Morning Nonsense the other day, and I was actually going through grinding like all the stuff you're supposed to, like you scan the planet, and then you pick up whatever's on the surface, and then you scan multiple times to collect everything, and that's when the Reapers come. And I was doing the exact same strategy of I would go into the system, scan, get them on me, and then I'll just kind of know where everything is. I'd fuck off, and then I'd quickly go back into the system. And as they're all coming back in from the sides because they reset the position, I just kept jumping to each planet, and I fucked out of there. Even though Reaper's supposed to be this incredibly, like they're way more advanced than anything you could know.
And they
yet
only come from
can't
one
go
direction.
faster.
They only come from one direction too.
One thing I suppose that I haven't really thought of: do the Reapers need to use like the mass relays? Because originally I thought they wouldn't need to, but then, like if you're looking at specifically the inferences which are told by like the Arrival DLC, like destroying that relay gives you like a lot more time before the Reapers actually arrive.
Well, they did that back in Mass Effect 1, I think, as well, too. They had to activate the relay that was on the Citadel for...
Well, yeah, but that's
for
like
for
from
him to show
dark
up.
space to the...
No, he was already
like the
in
Milky Way.
in our Milky Way. He was already here, remember?
Yeah,
was on that-
he was in the Milky Way, Sovereign. But
Yeah, Sovereign, but...
like oh yeah, I suppose he did use the relays. Okay.
Yeah, he that's why he needed a Saren. Well, to bring his other...
Well, he needed Saren to get onto the station so that he could close the station around him when he actually... So he can transfer the control to Sovereign in the first game.
Yeah, that's true. It's been a while, but yeah, I've always wondered.
The first Mass
I've always
Effect game's really
wondered.
fucking good.
I've always wondered what was Sovereign doing this whole time. Like
Uh,
he's in our galaxy. I mean, he's in our,
So what
our
it's
solar
told,
system.
what we're told in the first game is that he basically just lays in wait until this civilization actually rises. He's basically a scout, monitoring everything that's happening from a distance, and when it's time, he sends the signal to the Citadel, which is what's supposed to activate it, and that brings the Reapers through. But the Citadel didn't activate because of what the Protheans did, and we're told about that from Vigil.
Yeah,
And
they reset
throughout the time
systems.
which, like, he's been trying to basically call in the Reapers. He's been like gaining allies and slowly indoctrinating people, and
Yeah.
like they even say that they don't think that Seren was the first person he indoctrinated, or one of his first head agents.
Right. No, I get that. I don't know. I've been kind of tempted to buy like the Legendary Edition. I'm like, hey, it looks kind of nice, but then I see like videos of like, bugs and glitches and stuff like that, and I'm like,
if you already own like the
I'm
Mass
gonna keep
Effect
the
trilogy,
$60.
it's not really that worth it. If you could buy Mass Effect 1 in Legendary Edition on its own, like you can in with like Halo Master Chief
Yeah. I mean,
collection,
yeah.
like you can buy like Halo Reach, or you can buy Halo 1, or you can buy Halo 2 Remastered. That would be fine. I just would recommend you to play like the first game and then just not neither of the other two. But because you have to get it in a collection, it makes things iffy, and that's the part where it's like you can go for it if you really, really want to pay that money to play Mass Effect 1 with improved graphics. But considering like the lack of improvements when it comes to 2 and 3, if you're really not that bothered, then I would say
honestly,
just keep going.
I mean,
another thing that fucking bugs me is that they took the N7 weapons, which were my favorite weapons to use in the game, and so originally they were like free with the deluxe edition.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, now
they
they're
motherfucking made them like 100,000 credits for each one.
Yeah, so you can't have them like right at the start of the game. Yeah, I know that
was. Well, it's not just that you can't have them right at the start of the game. Is that I spent almost the entire game saving up to have all the N7 weapons and to level them all up and to get all the mods for them.
I remember in Mass Effect 3, I think I
I didn't even get the motherfucking fish because I was spending all my money on those weapons.
I never bought any of the pets either, but I remember they had
you have to get Space Hamster. Space Hamster is the one thing you need to get in like the pet.
But I'm saying they had this one weapon. I forget the name of it. It was an N7 weapon. It was basically like an LMG weapon. I forget what it was called. Like not the Valkyrie. It was something.
The Valkyrie was the burst weapon.
Yeah, it was the burst weapon, but this was like an LMG. It was huge. It was bulky. It had like a shield.
Oh, I know that one. Yeah, that's my favorite one. I can't remember what it is though.
And when I first got it, and they're explaining it to me, it's like, oh, it's an LMG. It holds a lot of rounds, and I'm like, oh wow, this is badass. I fired it the first time. The shots are going all over the place, and I'm like, yeah, this thing kind of sucks at range.
Well, no, it doesn't. It's fucking awesome.
I don't remember Shiny.
It might be that I just modded it with like the stabilizer. But that weapon is like it even goes through a armor penetration, so it goes through the shields of like.
Yeah, I had to like fire it in bursts, and then when I got the Citadel DLC.
No, you don't fire it in bursts because when you hold it down, like the charge, like the damage it does gets higher.
I don't remember Shiny. I played it back when it first came out.
You need to hold it down, and then you just mow down all the enemies, and that was my main weapon throughout Mass Effect 3. That was that good.
Yeah, but. Yeah, I played that game when it first came out, so I don't remember.
I instead thought the Valkyrie was shit. Though, another one of my favorite weapons from Mass Effect 3 was the Crusader. Was like the shotgun.
Oh, yeah. I didn't use the shotguns all that much. I just used like the assault rifle, maybe the pistol, if I had to.
I also did like the Claymore. It does a fuck ton of damage.
I liked it in the Citadel DLC. They gave you the Avenger assault rifle that had like unlimited ammo. I was like, finally, thank you. I mean, granted, you have to like, progress a bit of the story wise in order to like have all your teammates. But I liked having like the infinite ammo assault rifle.
I usually wait till when I do Citadel DLC. What I do is I wait till like after. Before Thessia has been like taken over.
Yeah, I think it was like after that. I think it was like
because it's a bit
correctly.
Actually, no. I would actually say because you can play it after Cerberus has taken over. I would say play it like after the Asari Thessia has been taken over because at that point it is.
I think it's when I think if I remember correctly, when I did it, it was after I did the mission with Miranda, her first side mission. So I had her at the party, so I could have like all the. Which was like fairly late in the game, I think.
Oh fuck! I've already forgotten it's called now. It's not Afterlife. It's says something.
Where they're on the planet Horizon, I think it is. No, not
No,
Horizon.
it's not Horizon. It's with her father, right? Where she's
Yeah.
stolen.
Her side mission. Yeah, Miranda's
Well,
side mission.
it's not really a side mission. It's
Well,
the
you
main
know
mission.
what I mean. You
have
know
to
what
go
I
to
mean.
Sanctuary. That's it.
That's
You have
it,
to go to
yeah.
Sanctuary, and that's how you end up tracking back to the Elusive Man, because she put a tracker on Kai Lang.
Troy
In mine, she
Baker.
died. Good.
Troy Baker as a guy with a samurai sword in space, right? Yeah.
How are you supposed to get Miranda to survive? Because I warned her like exactly what was going to happen. I warned her of Kai Lang, but yet she died anyway. Not too much of a loss, I'll admit. But
did you do her? I don't know. Did you do her side quest thing in Mass Effect 2? I don't know. She survived in mine. I don't know. And I played the original.
No. I mean, like, I did. She survived in my Mass Effect 2, but then when I went to Mass Effect 3, she died. And I warned her of Kai Lang, but she died anyway. And she was like perfectly fine for most of the scene, but then she just falls down and dies for no fucking reason. Like, she's got enough power to, kill her father and chuck him off a fucking cliff, but not enough. She just falls down and die. You can't just take her back to the Normandy.
She's not
the will enough that you can take her and to the fucking med bay, or even just apply some Metagel.
I'm gonna take her to the med bay and fuck her.
She lost the will to live, Shiny.
She lost the will to be in these movies, and I don't blame her.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway. I'm looking forward to Far Cry 6.
I just had to let you guys riff on the Mass Effect stuff.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I never played 2 and 3. I got bored with 1.
I'll be honest. I never finished 3. I got as far as the Battle for Earth when I'm on the ground and I'm having to do the fucking missile trucks or whatever the fuck those things are.
Oh yeah.
I kept getting swarmed by those Asari things, and I was like,
the
fuck
Thanix
this.
Missiles, like Thanix.
Yeah. I was like, fuck
technology
this.
is like firing
I never went back.
incredibly hot metal at at super speeds that it appears like a laser. How the fuck do you put that into a missile? It's bullshit. It's stupid.
Yeah.
I love that Mass Effect created this incredibly intricate lore that's got so much depth, and then at every point after the first Mass Effect game, they just essentially ignore it.
Yeah.
Like, relays work in this way? Fuck that.
I think one of the things I was always pissed about was like you had infinite ammo in the first game, and then second and third game you've got limited ammo.
Yeah, and that's something which has been like ripped upon in like Mass Effect for ages. The fact that they
why would you go
essentially
backwards?
had infinite ammo, and like the cooling system is pretty alright. Like even what they used in like Battlefront, they went for the cooling system rather than the ammo system. But in the universe, they just take out the cooling technology, add thermal clips, and now it's like limited ammo.
Thermal clips.
Yeah,
and there's no way to put these thermal clips into the guns themselves, because the original designs from the first game weren't there to accommodate fucking clips.
Yeah,
because they were supposed to be like infinite ammo, because it chopped a little thing off a block inside.
Right, exactly.
And
I was
then
just
it
going to bring
fired
it up.
at insane speeds. And because
so
it was
technically speaking, your ammo is still inside the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Technically speaking, you just need a thermal clip to access it. That is retarded.
And like the thermal clips, like despite looking universal and they're all the exact same fucking size, they're like you only get certain amounts per weapon, which would make sense if they look different, but they don't.
Imagine owning a Glock or like an M16 and you're told, well, the ammo is always inside of the gun. You just need this particular part to fire the gun. It's like, no, fuck that. I don't want that.
And it was all part of like the normalization of the game. Like they removed it's quotation marks streamlining.
Yeah.
I fucking hate that. So exactly what they did to Fallout. We're just basically removing all the features and then calling it streamlining and making it more normie.
It just works. No, it don't.
Come on, Glib, that's the perfect chance for you to chime in and rant about Fallout.
No, I was telling somebody in Discord I fucked their dad Sorry.
Oh,
Anyway, I think we're coming up on 3 hours, so
Yeah.
we'll probably end it right here. We've had enough of a rant and a talk and a chat.
As usual, Glib is the winner. Special effects, practical effects, making shit real. 10 out of 10.
one does it better than Glib.
Shiney defeated in combat again. Number 1, 200 victories in a row, 0 losses. Glib facsimile.